So really, that's how you make Tupperware?
Jesus. Fuck yeah.
Welcome to another episode of Untitled Car Project. I am one of your hosts, Ian Fike.
Jeremy Molt.
Park Ranger Grant.
And today we have a very special guest, a very good friend of mine, Chad Myers. Chad, say hello.
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 Hey, guys.
Hello.
We invited Chad on because he is a awesome dude, first and foremost. But Chad is a very talented fabricator, car builder, drifter, and various other things, including a father. I'm so proud of you.
Wow,
buddy.
it's really nice. Thank you.
So we want to start with the basics.
Hold on. My wife, when he rolled in, his car's loud.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, oh, I think our guest is here. And she's like looking out the window. Yeah, some guy in a kid car's here. I'm like, kid yes.
It is definitely a kid car. Yeah.
Yeah, that checks out.
I'm sad I missed it. I can't wait till the end of the show. I get to hear
Oh,
it.
yeah. It sounds
Yeah,
good.
your neighbors will be real excited.
Well, fuck those. Is it a car if it's not loud? I mean, is it a good car if it's not loud?
If it's not, it's a trash can
not.
named by Tesla.
Let's start with Chad's project cars, and we want to start with the motivation and inspiration. Chad, when did your passion for cars begin?
Probably right outside of high school, like right after high school. Is when I picked up my first car, which I still own. It's a 2003 Lexus IS 300. And then to kind of fund all of the modifications that came later down the road, I just slowly started working on other local kids' cars in the community. And just
And where was this?
this was in Moore Park, California, Southern
Southern
California,
California.
small little town in Ventura County.
Okay.
And actually, I remember I went to a car meet. It was a Lexus meet in the Valley, and on my way back, I was almost home. And when you're coming through Simi Valley on the freeway, you'll see a movie theater and the big parking lot. And I saw there was another car meet going on, so I hopped off and I found another guy in the same car, another IS 300, and his name was Chris, and he had a big intercooler in the front. And this was like in 2009, 2000, and like seeing these cars modified was really rare because they were still fairly expensive.
Right.
And
I was only 4 years old.
yeah, so I was super stoked. I'm like, oh shoot, somebody actually like turboed this car?
Yeah.
Crazy. So I had to meet him, and we became pretty close friends, and he ended up talking me into turboing my car.
Sick.
And so that just kind of opened up Pandora's box.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, the rest is history.
I believe that. So when did you happen upon the IS, or did you just did you want it? Like, what happened? with
Honestly, I wasn't even like considering buying an IS 300 because at the time they were like $16,000 brand new.
Oh, wow.
You know, and I didn't have a whole lot of money saved.
Yeah.
I was just out of high school, and so I was looking at like Scion TCs,
just something more affordable.
Hondas, yeah, something
Civic.
more affordable.
No
that
American
was-
Muscle?
No, you know, and that was like, my dad was huge into American Muscle. That's probably where I get it from with the whole car thing. Because when he was in high school, he was building fast muscle cars. Him and his buddy Scott, they built a 69 Nova, and they used that thing to street race all the time. And so, yeah, no muscle cars for me. I think Fast and the Furious was big at the time.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Oh, I agree.
During
Still
that
haven't
time.
seen it.
That was
And so-
that was influential on a
So that
lot
was-
of us.
but
Yeah. And so Japanese cars kind of, I was drawn more to them for whatever reason. I respect anyone who's into cars, any types of cars, but the Japanese scene has just kind of been my thing, I guess, from the beginning. So like I said, I didn't expect to get an IS 300. The idea was put into my head from a buddy I went to high school with, and he just randomly suggested, like, oh, you should get an IS. And I'm like, yeah, they're sick, but like, there's no way I can afford one. and I told my dad about it, and like the next day he was like looking on Craigslist trying to find one. He's like, "Oh, we'll help you out, and then you can just pay us back."
That's epic.
Damn.
Yeah,
That's
super grateful for it. And so yeah, we ended up finding one in North Hollywood like a week later.
Was it a manual car?
Yeah, it was factory manual. That
Oh,
was
wow.
the thing. That was like, I need it to be a factory manual and like somewhat low miles.
And they were really rare.
Just in general, factory
In general.
manual. Yeah.
And even then, they were more expensive.
Yeah.
What engine those come originally with? Because
So those come with a 3-liter 2JZ
Okay.
inline 6, but it's non-turbo. So it's not the same. It's
Okay.
like the same foundation as the Toyota Supra, but it's slightly different. It has a bit higher compression. It's non-turboed. And internally, they're not as strong.
so they're not the same bottom end, like they're
No.
not forged or anything.
The crank is forged,
Okay.
and they are the same.
Okay.
The rods are weaker.
The rods are weaker, and the pistons are slightly different, but everything's interchangeable, which I didn't even know about until
at that time.
Yeah, I thought it was a sick car, and like no one had one that was my age, and so yeah, we found one in North Hollywood, and it was a dude who was like, he was going to UCLA to be like a doctor or something, and he was a little.
Wanted to step his game up.
He was a little bit older than me, but like he was like, I need to sell this car because it's just too expensive for me. I need to focus on school.
Wow.
Too expensive. Wait a
Yeah,
minute.
Well, it's probably only 4 years old.
yeah. It was
like,
like
it was
it was
probably a pretty
almost
expensive
when it wasn't a
payment.
brand new car, but just like he's like, I can't keep up with the maintenance, which is funny because like
Is it-
they're super reliable.
Yeah, that's why I was wondering. I was like, what's expensive
It's
about
not
that?
a Mercedes.
I think dude probably just wanted to put some cash in his pocket and like get a cheaper car.
2
and
weeks
then-
later, you see him in the Mercedes.
Well, now if you're running a payment on a car and going to school and not working a whole lot,
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's fucking
I
expensive.
agree.
Yeah, even back then.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And like he didn't strike me as the type as somebody who was like his parents were paying for his school. Like I think
Right.
he was
It
actually
was all just
It was all
loans
him.
and
Yeah.
bills. Yeah.
so
That's cool, man.
yeah.
So, I know you have a bunch of ISs, and we want to
Yeah.
talk to you about all of them, really.
Yeah.
I know you've kind of like immersed yourself in the chassis, which I appreciate. You know, that's how we met, which is cool. Because you, as all our listeners know, I have one as well. But can you tell us a little bit about the cars you do have and the engine projects you're working on?
Yeah. So I still have that first one I was talking about. That thing's been through so many different stages. It was turboed, it wasn't turboed, and then it was turboed again, and then I blew up the engine, and this all happened in California.
Right.
And when I came up here, I had already had the motor rebuilt, and this was before I was turning wrenches, but I just wasn't where I'm at mechanically as I am like today. Okay.
Right.
So like I had someone else build the motor. I bought the parts and I had them put them in.
Yeah.
And so when I came up here, it's funny. I when I moved up here, I moved up here on a whim in 2015, and like I moved all of my stuff in that car up here, and the first thing I did was grab my turbo kit, put it in a box, and put it in the back seat. That was
priorities,
the
dude.
main priority, and then the clothes, and then like whatever else I could fit in the car. So I had the motor rebuilt with the Supra internals, so the
Okay.
thicker rods and better pistons.
So you built it to be turboed.
I had it intentionally rebuilt so that I could throw some boost at it and practically and reliably. But it was still running on the stock computer. Everything was stock other than like an intake and some headers, but it was basically stock. So I came up here, and then I ended up buying, before the other Lexuses came into the picture, I ended up buying a 1994 Nissan 240SX.
And I believe you still have
I
that.
still have it.
Very nice.
I bought it from a friend of mine who was moving back to Wisconsin, and he didn't want to take it with him. And so previously, he's a drift guy too, and he's a car guy through and through. Super talented. He did a twin turbo, a Risto swap, and then converted that to a single turbo. So basically had this the Supra motor swapped into it already.
What's a Ristro swap?
Aristo is it's the Japanese variant of like a GS300, of a Lexus GS300, the big
Okay.
body sedan. But they came in Japan. Most of them came with the real 2JZ motor out of the Supra that we see today.
Okay.
Yeah. So he swapped that motor in. He did a single turbo on it, made like 500 horsepower. That was his drift car, and like it's totally built to the moon. Like solid subframe bushings, angle kit. You know, the suspension, control arms, everything's all dialed in. It's like a dedicated drift car, and so that was going to be like my seat time car because at that time I still hadn't actually driven on a track yet. And so he presented a deal that I couldn't pass up. Because these cars are super rare as is, and the drift tax on them is just insane. The price he gave me was like, I just couldn't pass it up. So I bought that from him, and then I decided to drive it around because I was just riding that high of like having a new car.
Yeah.
And at that time, I put the IS 300 under the knife and started. I pulled it into the garage of the house I was living at, and started tearing it down, getting it ready to turbo. I ended up putting the turbo kit on in like a day, but it wasn't like,
Sounds about right.
It wasn't ready like to be driven. Like it still needed to be tuned. It still needed all that, but like all the bolt-on turbo parts I had put on it. And so, yeah, I kept just driving the S14 around. And then eventually, I got the turbo IS 300 tuned and drivable again, so I started driving that around, and then I think it was in like 2017 or 2018 I acquired my second IS 300, which is the blue one outside that you see now.
Okay.
Perfect.
I picked that up from my friend Andrew in Washington, and again, another one of those. He presented me with a deal that I just couldn't pass up. The car was running very poorly, but it would start and like drive enough to be able to get it up onto a car dolly and take it home. And it came with a spare 2J and a spare manual transmission.
Wow.
And it was already manual swapped. So at that time I had 3 manual transmissions,
Wow.
3 2JZs, and 2 cars. Well, and 3 including the
But 2
S14.
ISs.
2 ISs.
Yeah.
And so I went through a bunch of trials and tribulations to try and get the motor that was already in it to run good, and couldn't figure that out. So I ended up just pulling the motor and the engine harness, everything out, and put in the spare motor that I picked up from my buddy that I bought the car from. And it was still running funny. I couldn't figure it out. Bought another engine harness for it, another computer. Like, it just wouldn't run right.
Fuel pump.
Maybe. Actually, no. So through the years of working on these cars, I've just acquired so many spare parts. So like in my garage right now, I've just got Home Depot totes, the big ones, just full of like intake manifolds, throttle bodies, fuel pump hangers, like literally anything that you would possibly need to troubleshoot this engine mechanically. Chances are I've got 2 or 3 of them just sitting in a box, which
yeah.
is great.
I know you do.
So Ian's seen it. So it's great because, and I think that's kind of why I just stuck with the platform, because like if anything goes wrong, chances are I can fix it like the same day, because I've got spare parts for days.
Yeah.
Don't have to buy or wait,
Get a special thing to you from the Midwest in like 3 days. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So, how many ISs do you have now?
3.
Okay, you have 3. So let's talk about those 3 cars in their current state.
Okay, so
I know we know the blue car's out front.
Yeah.
Tell us about that one first.
Okay, so the blue car is the one I've been driving the most lately, because the black car, that's a whole nother story we can get into. But the blue car is, right now, it's my most reliable out of the 3 IS 300s I have. Turnkey, I can start it. It's got full interior. comfortable. Well, for what it is, for what's in it. That car now has a VVTi 1JZ swapped into it. I imported it. And it's the late model 1J.
Right, so it's like Gen 2 or whatever they call it.
So it's single turbo. It has variable valve timing. So the early model 1Js from Japan, they basically it's the same bones, but it just doesn't have the variable valve timing.
Okay.
And they came twin turbo from the factory. It's like
and yours came single turbo.
Mine came, so the one I have, the late model, it's a single turbo from the factory. Has the variable valve timing, but everything else is basically the same.
Right.
So wait, they went from a twin turbo to a single turbo?
Yeah.
Yes.
Why did they do that? That seems like counterintuitive.
Better power.
Probably.
It's more efficient,
It's
too.
probably more efficient.
Way more,
yeah.
The mile per gallons and everything's better.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I will touch on this. I've had a twin turbo 1J in a car before. And, the engine Chad's referring to in his blue car up front is by far superior. One, it's 50 horsepower from the factory better, or something like that, like 40, I think.
Sounds about right.
It's nuts. It's good. It's really good. And then the single turbo manifold that comes on the VVTi variant is so much more efficient. Everything's better. The head flow's better.
So is the twin turbo like a sequential turbo, and that's why it's
a true twin.
Interesting.
Yes, and it's similar to like the twin turbo supermotor that we see here in the States.
Yes, the early one.
Yeah,
but the late 2J GTE, that was sequential, correct?
Oh, was it?
It was.
I'm not super familiar.
I'm pretty familiar with this, and I 100% know that the blacktop JZ 2J was true twin, just like the 1J early model non-VVTi, and then the late model blue top was sequential.
Okay,
interesting.
And I'm not sure why they went with the 1J single turbo.
Yeah, just because if you're going to twin turbo, you're going to feel like more power. You literally have double it.
They're small turbos.
Not necessarily.
Are they?
Yeah,
No.
they're very small.
Very small. Yeah.
Well, you'd have faster spool time at least, though.
No.
You'd be surprised.
You
So
wouldn't.
the factory single turbo on my motor,
Yeah.
it's tiny. What is it? A CT15B?
C15.
C15B?
CT15, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a very small turbo. I don't know what you would compare it to from like a Garrett or like
a KO4 or
yeah,
something.
Yeah, something like you'd probably see on like an STI or something. It's
Okay, like
spools
tiny.
super fast.
Okay.
And it doesn't have quite as much headroom as like, a 60 millimeter turbo or like a GT35R or something, but they're still, for the time, pretty efficient. And they make power quick.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got power on tap from like 2,000 RPM all the way to 7,200 RPM.
Okay.
And it just keeps pulling.
Sits at
Keeps
boost.
going. Yeah,
Just sits at boost.
It's a really good setup.
And I can say firsthand car and track, you know what you're doing with it. It's a great car. It's a good seat time car. You really haven't had any issues with it.
Mm-hmm.
That's really the only car I've seen you drive on track, so I know it's reliable. Let's talk about the other ones.
Yeah.
The other IS.
So I'll start with the other one I haven't talked about, the gray one. I acquired that from my coworker from my last job, who I worked with, right? And he sold it to me as a rolling chassis, but it had all the parts that we made at Excessive on it.
Okay.
So it's got the steering knuckles, it's got BC coilovers,
And we're going to touch on Excessive here shortly.
Yeah.
We really want to talk to you about that.
Yeah. So the chassis itself is basically, it's set up to be basically a mirror image of the blue car, suspension and steering wise. But as it sits right now, there's no engine in it.
Okay.
So my original intent for that car was to swap an LS-based motor into it.
Okay.
So I went to Pick and Pull out here in Sherwood, found a Suburban, I think like an 03 or an 04 Suburban with the 5.3 Vortec and iron block. And so I pulled that out. I don't know.
So you were the one who took it. I was trying. No,
there are a dime a dozen out there, man. So I went out there and I pulled that motor. I have that motor at Excessive right now on an engine stand. And it's basically just torn down to the block, the heads, and the valve covers.
Okay.
I've taken all the accessories out because it came out of the Suburban, so it has all the truck
crap.
Yeah.
Yeah. And none of that
it won't fit
under the hood. Like the power steering reservoir and the water pump, it's just not ideal.
It'll fit under most old cars. It'll fit under a 240SX, but it will not fit under an IS.
Yeah. So I pulled all that stuff off. And I quickly, after I bought the motor, went to Rock Auto, and I just bought all the F-body conversions. So anything you'd see in like a Camaro or a Corvette, where all of the accessories are placed. They're like down lower and like not so bulky. Yeah. So it's just been proven to, like, if you get F-body or if you pull an actual LS1 out of like a Camaro or a, I don't know, Firebird or something. GTO, yeah. Those are pretty much, aside from like the swap kit, plug and play. They'll just drop right in the engine bay.
Okay. Change
the oil pan. So that's been my plan. So I have all the F-body conversion parts. I still need to get the oil pan for it.
I could put new heads on it from a different LS motor? Or?
I'm just going to run it the plan is to just run it as is.
Okay.
I don't want to tear into it. I would like to, since the motor's out, put a cam in it, just because after we put it in Ian's car, I'm like, I want that chop. I don't care what power makes, as long as it sounds cool. Like, really, the gray car.
And you do have an LS6 intake manifold, LS6.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I did. You got some.
I got the right parts.
Yeah, you got the right
parts.
Yeah.
I mean, it should make reliable 300. I think
easily.
So that's the plan with it, but. So Ian doesn't even know this. I've been tossing around the idea because at my mom's house in California, I have another Lexus.
Of course you do.
I have an LS400.
I'm sure you have a secret Lexus, Chad.
Yeah, it's a 1996, 1995. I don't even know. Maybe it might even be a 94, but it's a early model LS400, which came with a 4-liter V8. So it's not an LS.
Yeah.
But it's like Toyota's version of what the LS, I guess, could have been.
Yeah.
And
those were all forged.
Yeah, they're great.
Yeah.
And it's the non-VVTi motor. Yeah. So it's actually like ready for boost. Like, it's known in the community that, like, oh, you can just throw a turbo on these things and they work.
Pretty good.
Yeah, they make power.
Do they do good with a supercharger? Because most V8s use superchargers.
Yeah, probably.
Okay.
I mean, at that point though, you're just, I don't know how common
it's going to be harder to find one.
Find like your bracketry and all that stuff. And then again, the fitment issue of like fitting all of that stuff underneath the hood. So I've been thinking of like bringing that car up here.
Let's do it.
And then just like swap, because I have everything for it. All the accessories, I have the wiring harness, everything for it. If I just wanted to just transplant it.
Put the LS in that one, you're saying?
No, like take the 1UZ out of the LS
and put it in the IS.
Put it in the IS.
Okay.
And then to be like a true like Lexus to Lexus swap.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
Or I could, if I do bring it up here, I have a spare manual transmission. And Excessive makes the adapter for the W55.
Yes, they do.
So I could convert it.
Make a manual LS.
So the LS400.
Is it running?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So I don't know if you guys are familiar with the LS400s, but they're like an even bigger body version.
Okay.
So like the IS is like the sporty compact, like your 3 Series BMW, right?
Okay.
And then the GS would be like the 5 Series BMW.
Like a GT car?
No, it's a sedan.
It's a sedan.
Okay.
So
it's
it's
just
like
a bigger body.
It's a big body sedan.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But then the LS400, that was like the executive's car, right? It's like the 7 Series BMW, right? It's the big car. So it would be kind of cool to just like throw a manual transmission in that thing and scoot around. But
so real quick, you do have one other IS that's really exciting.
Yeah.
And I want to talk to you about this one, especially it's a black car, right?
So that's the original one, the black one. That was my first car, right? That I still have today. And so what ended up happening was the rebuilt motor that I had rebuilt, brought up here, turbocharged it, daily drove it like that for 2 years or so, turboed. And before that, I had been daily driving it without the turbo for another 3 or 4 years, which still isn't a very long time on a rebuild. It should last longer, but it was starting to eat oil. It was blowing a little bit of smoke. I could just feel that it was tired. And and this is the thing too. Like, I had someone else put it together.
Right.
So like, I don't know what it looks like inside.
Yeah.
Did they gap the rings correctly? Did they mic the crank before, putting the bearings in? Like all these small things that like really make a big deal when it comes to building a reliable motor.
Things that you know now.
Well, that's
Yes.
not only that. Well, that also comes down to, I guess, a similar topic, different topic. When you have an engine builder, you trust onto that, because there's some shops people just send to and like, they destroyed my motor, they wouldn't do a good job. But like, when you find a really good engine builder, they're doing all
Exactly.
that.
Well, and that's the thing. He was known. I'm not going to shout his name out because I don't
need to.
No need to. But in the community of the IS300 world, and this is before Facebook, before Instagram, like when everything was on just forums.
Yeah.
He was like the guy that everyone in SoCal would bring their motors to because he was just known to.
He was him.
He was him. Put it that way.
Yeah.
He was the guru.
So like,
Right.
I was that's the mindset that I had when I brought him the motor, that I could just trust his judgment. And then now thinking back on it, like when I went to
a bad Friday and just like, I'm gonna get out of here early.
Well, I can specifically remember going to his house because we thought that the car might be ready to pick up. I get there and the motor is like still not even in the car, which is no big deal. I showed up in the morning, like realistically it should be back in the car by afternoon. You'd hope.
Yeah.
But as we're putting everything back on the car, on the motor, all the accessories and everything, and getting it prepped to be put back in the car, he's telling me about how he doesn't believe in torque wrenches.
Oh wow.
Okay.
That would be the first
Even
sign.
on a pressure plate?
Dude, on your main main caps,
I know,
holding
right?
your crank down, like
Unless he's got robotic arms.
this is what he claimed. And this is me as I don't know anything when it comes to building an engine at this point, at this
just like,
stage.
yeah,
I'm just
okay.
like, oh, this guy's just old school, like he's done it so much that he told me, he's like, yeah, I go by feel. I can tell what feels like 90 foot-pounds. Feels like 55 foot-pounds. So,
And you're like, yeah, dude, for
Yeah.
sure.
Calibrated.
and so
No.
fast forward to
I'm gonna need this individual's name by the end of the show so I can not invite him to the park.
he may not even be building.
He
He may not even be building engines anymore.
Okay.
We've been out of contact.
We'll feed him to the Raptor exhibit.
I knew it was coming.
The dinosaurs.
Jesus
Well,
Christ.
he hasn't even hit it yet.
I know, thank God. So what's going on with the car now?
So I pulled that motor out with the intention to rebuild it from the ground up.
Right.
And in the meantime, I was just going to put a factory IS300 engine back in it because I had one.
Yeah.
Right.
And where I was working at Excessive at the time, the owner approached me and he was like, hey, let's do something cool with this thing. Like, you got the motor out, let's, you want to do like an all motor build? And as me being a dumbass, I'm like, yeah,
That sounds good.
Let's throw some flames in it too.
of course. Why wouldn't I?
Non-nitrous.
And when we start
Yeah.
talking about Excessive, you'll understand more because I'm like,
Okay.
I'm in an environment where it's like anything's possible.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's true.
And so I'm like, yeah, let's do it. And at the time, they were just finishing up their R&D to do individual throttle bodies
Oh, cool.
on this motor, which before that, to my knowledge, I've only seen maybe one other. It was a Supra.
Right. But it was probably in Japan.
I think he was out here in the States.
Okay.
But he's not active as far as I know because I found his social medias and like I hadn't seen an active post. And if you look up his videos on YouTube, they're like a decade and a half old.
Oh, wow.
Right. And so I I knew some guys in Japan had done it too.
Right.
But at least out here in the States, I hadn't known anyone in an IS-300 that had done it. So I was like, yeah, let's do it. And so now it currently has Ian's old motor that I bought
Stock
from him.
motor.
It's a
Yep.
stock motor with the individual throttle body kit on it through Excessive. Custom engine harness running on a Link ECU, which is a standalone computer for tuning.
What transmission?
Oh, the transmission. This is another R&D product that Excessive is about to release. It's a TL70 6-speed manual out of FRS BRZ.
Oh, very cool.
So it's a fairly new transmission, and the power threshold is right around the same as the factory IS-300 W55 5-speed, but it's
Perfect.
just newer. And then also
More readily available.
it's way they're a dime a dozen. They're super cheap because that's the thing too. Is like a lot of IS-300 guys when they want to manual swap their car nowadays, W55s are so hard to come by.
You just gotta go to your
They're
garage.
expensive. Yeah, you just got to come to my house.
Yeah, seriously. though. That's fact. All right, Chad. So let's talk about this, dude, because you've touched on it, and I'm very familiar. I love Excessive. Excessive has played a huge role in the build of my car and obviously my friends group at this point. But what do you do there, and how do you come to know the Excessive people? And just give us a rundown of the whole history.
Yeah. So I moved up here in May of 2015. The girl I was dating at the time, her older brother, Joe, drifted Corollas.
Okay.
And
And we're talking like 70s, 80s? What are we doing?
Yeah, like,
like 80s.
Okay.
oh, so like A88s and A86s.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he didn't have like your traditional like what all the drift guys, Wet Dreams A86 hatch.
not a hatch.
Roku,
It's a
yeah.
coupe.
But they're all the same platform, right? They just some body styles are different. So that's what he drove, right? And his setup was insane. Like his control arms that Excessive makes. So at the time, I didn't know what Excessive was. They're a local shop out here in Beaverton, right here in Garden Home,
Southwest Portland.
Oh, okay.
Southwest Portland. Yeah, the Heim joints for the rod ends on those things are like what you'd see on like a pre-runner like trophy truck. And I'm like, holy shit, dude, these are like really nice. Like, and this is so overbuilt for this tiny little chassis running a 20 valve 4AG swap in it.
Right.
And so, and also at the time, I had an admiration for drifting, but I'd never actually, outside of like doing some donuts and some figure eights in a empty parking lot, I hadn't driven on a track.
Yeah.
And so, out here in the Northwest, the drift community, the drift scene is like, it was already here. Whereas where I came from, in this little town of Ventura County, it was like up and coming. There wasn't very many people drifting. And so when I came out here, it was a total culture shock. Like, oh man, everybody's into drifting. You go to Pat's Acres, it's like a thing. It's packed, right?
Yeah.
And so Joe was like, hey, I think you'd really like Rich, the owner of Excessive. He's like, you want to come with me and just check out the shop? I'm like, yeah, sure. I've got nothing else to do. I don't know anyone out here. So that's how I met the guys at Excessive. And super down-to-earth guys, super cool, super nice. At the time, they weren't building parts for the Lexus yet.
And I know you had a big part to play in that. As far as I understand. Enough of a part.
Maybe.
Yeah, well, you can be humble, but we all know the lore.
So a few years later, I'm helping Rich re-roof his house. So I was working in a sheet metal shop, just installing sheet metal on roofs and commercial buildings, stuff like that. And Rich asked me, hey, you know how to do sheet metal. You want to help me do my house? I'm like, yeah, let's do it. And so we were on the roof of his house laying down roofing panels, and he turns to me and he's like, "You want to work for me?" And I was like, "Really?" He's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Yeah, I want to work for you. Are you kidding
Hell
me?"
yeah.
Yeah. So then I started working at Excessive in like late 2018.
Okay.
It was like
What'd you
right
do there?
before
Yeah,
COVID.
what'd they have you do for
What-
starting?
Oh, yeah. I'm interested to know this too. What'd you start with, and where are you at now?
So I'm a self-taught welder, and I don't have any certs or anything like that. but,
TIG, MIG, stick,
All of
all
it.
the above.
I can do all of it.
Okay.
At the time, I was proficient in MIG, and I had a TIG welder that I acquired from the guy I bought the S14 from before he moved, because he was just trying to offload all the stuff he didn't want to take.
Yeah.
I wasn't that great with it, but I had the machine, and I was set to like learn how to do it. Because to me, like TIG welding is like top tier.
Yeah.
You know, stick welding is like, I don't know, anyone can do it. Well, it's actually pretty hard.
It's harder than MIG.
It's messy,
Yeah.
you know, it's messy, and it's not, you know.
It's stick is there for when you're out in the field in the mud trying to get a pipe at an awkward angle.
yeah.
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 It's pipe welding. Let's
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
honest.
And then MIG's like, mid-tier, and then TIG was like, to me, it's like, oh, this is where I want to be. But anyways, so I was decent at MIG welding at the time. So Rich, when they hired me, they put me in as the welder. And Excessive is a small operation. There's two owners, actually, two brothers, Rich and Ryan. They design all the parts. They do all of the R&D. They do. They draw up all of the CAD for all of the patterns that eventually get formed into the parts. And then there is me now, because I got my job back on the weekends. So I'm over there
Which
welding.
we're
on
all
the
happy
weekends.
about.
Yeah, it's fun.
I know you're probably not thrilled.
No, I like it.
Oh, good.
It's
dude,
like a
'cause-
hobby.
No, I know it.
It's
I
not
know
like
it is.
work to me.
I know you
Yeah.
enjoy it, dude, and like it's awesome, dude. You belong there.
So I'm their welder, and then there's one other person, guy, he kind of does everything. He's customer service, shipping fulfillment, troubleshooter with other customers having any issues with installing parts and stuff like that, and running the website and stuff like that. So they had me in as the welder. I'm also operating the press brake. So they have a big, giant, old press brake. So all of the parts that we make at Excessive are built in the USA. They're made in-house.
That's epic.
And every step of the manufacturing process is done in this shop. So Rich and Ryan, they design the parts, they send it out to a sheet metal shop to have mass cut out, laser cut, and then shipped up back to the shop on pallets. And then we break the patterns apart, deburr them, take them over to the press brake, bend them all up. Anything that needs to be welded, which is like 90% of the parts, take it over to the welding station, weld those things up. And then we have foundry equipment that cleans all the welds. It's kind of like a sandblaster, but it's a little bit more automated. It's called a rotoblaster. It's basically a media blaster.
Okay.
Cleans up all of the soot and carbon and everything from the welding and any kind of like rust or flash.
Does
that,
it use like a walnut base, or what kind of base powders it use?
very, 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 very fine steel balls.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's like birdshot, but even finer.
Okay.
And then from there, we take it over to the powder coating, powder coat it, and then
In-house.
in-house, and then we bring it into our inventory room, store it, and then assemble all of the parts that.
And do you guys make to order, or what? How's it work?
Yeah, that's one thing. I was
So what Rich likes to do, he takes pride in, is that we are a small batch manufacturing company, meaning we do make things. We produce items in batches versus mass production.
Right.
And by doing this, it keeps everybody working. There's no lull. Because if say orders slow down, And me being there, you know, I have nothing to do. It's like, oh, I guess go home for the day.
Yeah.
But
Right.
instead, he'd rather keep everyone working there employed and have hours to work. So instead of mass producing everything, we, depending on how popular each item is, will determine how much of
You're
it
gonna
we
build.
make at a time.
Yeah.
But the only things we do make to order are the drive lines.
Well, and that's what I wanted to get into, Chad. Before you touch on that, I mean, let's go over just some of the basic things you guys do. I know you guys make drive lines. You made one for my car. You've modified mine for my car when I swapped engine. But what other things do you guys do? And then not only that, but how many chassis do you offer products for?
Yeah. That was
Oh man.
that was the first thing I was gonna ask was like
Yeah.
what do you cover? That's the big thing. What do you cover?
Yeah. And you guys do cover some crazy interesting chassis.
Some common, some kind of out there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we do a handful of Lexuses, like ours.
Sure.
We offer parts for GS 300s, BMW. So like, and a lot of these cars are like older cars from like
80s, 90s.
80s to early 2000s.
Okay.
Yeah. So BMW's E36. So I think that's like mid 90s.
Yeah. It's
3
the
Series.
90s. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mid 90s. Yeah.
And then we kind of like wherever the drifting scene is kind of going towards is kind of where we develop parts.
Okay.
That's where we, so like right now the hot chassis are like IS 300s, E36 BMWs. I mean, a 240SX is always going to be
Yeah.
a staple. So a lot of parts we make cater to like your grassroots drifters.
Yeah.
But we also have parts for the Toyotas, right? So the Corollas, the Cressidas. So that was 80s to 90s.
Big, smaller sedan, but still
Yeah,
a
it's
sedan.
like the predecessor to the IS 300.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Right? What else? Oh yeah, I guess Lexuses too. We do SC parts, SC 300 parts. That's
Which
like
is
a
cool.
coupe. It's the
Yeah.
That's
the
a Grand
sport
Tourer
coupe.
car.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm trying to think what else. A couple of Mercedes, the 190E. We make
So
some parts for.
There's one name I haven't heard you mention yet, and I know it's being talked about slowly in the drifting community, but I mean the Mustang's a really great platform to go off of.
Oh, they're great. I
They are
mean,
great.
really, any rear-wheel drive American muscle car is it'll go sideways.
It'll
Yeah.
do the trick.
It'll do the thing,
Yeah.
right?
But
Um,
yeah, I mean, I don't think excessive manufacturers anything for.
No Mustang
For
parts.
Ford.
Well,
And it's not that we don't want to. It's just that there needs to be a big enough demand for the parts to justify putting the time into doing
And
it, right?
I do know a company that is manufacturing parts for Mustangs, whether it be Fox Body or the New Edge or the whatever they call it.
if you say pick and pull, I swear to God.
Jesus, Grant. They're called Detroit Drifting, of course.
Yeah.
I think they're owned by some pro-am guy. He's really good. But there was one chassis that I found interesting on the Excessive site, and you guys, I've seen it in the parking lot. I've seen there's two there. The Jaguar.
the Jag.
Jaguar.
Yeah.
Ooh, I'm here
And
excited
so-
to hear about this.
And there's crazy parts for that car on the website.
Yeah.
There's
so
like a manifold for a turbo or some shit.
they so on YouTube, Hoonigan did a couple of videos on the excessive cars, and one of them was the Jag.
I remember it. I
Yeah.
watched it. It's insane.
What year, Jag?
It's 80s.
80s, 70s,
early
80s.
80s,
It's a XJ
XJ6.
XJ6.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
Oh,
think so.
okay.
So it's the 4.2 liter.
Yes,
Yeah.
inline 6. Yeah. So Rich bought the car before Excessive built their promo car. Rich actually, which is in my backyard right now, still.
I've seen it.
Not the promo car, but the other.
The second one.
Rich's daily driver was an XJ6 that he 1J swapped.
With the same motor that
same
Chad's.
motor that's in my car
Oh, wow.
is swapped into that car,
Sick.
and he daily drove it for years. And he liked the platform so much that he decided that they were going to build one to be a dedicated drift.
That's cool.
And so it has the excessive Jaguar has a custom built turbo kit for it.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't tear into the engine. He just left it as is because it's
motor.
stock motor.
Wow.
It's stout. 4 point. What'd you say? It was a
4.2.
4.2. Yeah, 4
Yeah.
point. So it's got
That's a big 6.
Plenty of displacement.
It's a big 6.
Yeah.
And tons of torque. So he built the manifold for it. I think he actually kept the intake manifold on it and just built the intercooler piping and everything
It's
off
just
of
the
that.
exhaust
Custom fuel,
manifold, right?
yeah. Exhaust side is all excessive, right?
Yeah.
And then I think he built a custom fuel rail for it to do there because they have there's a fuel cell in the back,
Mm-hmm.
and then it's on coilovers. And now this is the interesting part. This is what makes it so unique is that he got rid of all the rear suspension that came factory from Jaguar.
Was it solid axle or I don't know? I'm
No,
just
it should be
curious.
independent.
It was.
Well, because a lot of people use them in their Cobra Kit cars.
Oh, see,
Jaguar
See,
rear
now
ends.
we're finding a connection.
I don't think
Yeah.
they're solid axle.
Okay,
yeah.
that's cool. I didn't know. I was just curious.
And so he developed a cantilever suspension system for it.
Oh, wow.
So the shocks are actually in the trunk attached to a mount. And then it's got, they're in an X pattern, right?
Wow.
And then they're attached to push rods that are attached to arms that actually pass. Pull arms that actually pass through the trunk into the wheel well and attaches to the control arms.
That's
Wow.
crazy.
And
Crazy.
and they did it for two reasons. I think it's a modernized design. It works better, and you have the adjustment with spring rates and damper control, and also ground clearance. So everything's all in the trunk, including the fuel cell. Because
The
apparently
only thing
everything
you-
hangs really low on the
Everything you
back
have
side
to
of those
deal
cars.
with is besides the diff housing is up.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's sick.
And so that was they ran that car at the track a lot. It's a super cool car. And then when I started working there, Rich was working on their next promo car, which was a Mercedes 190E.
I love that car. It's a gorgeous car.
And it was
That's
like
the boxy one, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
okay, yeah.
Jeremy
90s.
loves that car.
That's the
Yeah,
one.
nice boxy, dude. If
Yeah.
you saw Excesses, you'd be like, "Oh, it's so good."
it's got the full like DTM
Evolution.
style body kit, big wing on the back. I
Yep.
mean, it's so
like,
period
they call
correct.
it the Evolution kit, right?
Maybe.
I think it's called the Evolution. They called it or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was sick.
So that is 1JZ swapped with the non-VVTi 1J, but it's converted to single turbo, and that thing is super custom built. So the manifold, the exhaust manifold, the intake manifold plenum, it's everything that Excessive offers, and more. He custom built the brake rotors for it. So the brake rotors were inspired by like road race, big brake kit, Willwood calipers, and the rotors were actually, he cut them himself, laser cut out of
course he did.
chromoly steel. And they fill the wheels like, I mean, that's the
money.
biggest brakes I've ever seen on a 190E.
Wow.
And so that's there. And then like the interior, it's total street car, full interior, inspired by in the 80s. Like the carpet is like this purple plush.
Very nice.
Sick. Hell yeah.
Oh yeah, we're all big fans of that.
Yeah. And then the tape deck is still in there, and like so you get into it,
probably
and
awesome.
it's
probably
like,
a Blau
It
Punk.
still smells like that old 80s leather.
So it's like a European
Mercedes.
resto mod.
Yeah, exactly. But built as a drift car.
That's so cool.
And it weighs like, it's like 2,600 pounds, and it's still a 4-door.
That's
Wow.
not bad.
So like
Oh,
compared to
that's
my
killer.
IS,
Yeah.
Yeah.
my Lexus
Probably
is
800 pounds.
3,200
Yeah, I was
pounds.
gonna say.
Damn.
So it's a super lightweight car with similar wheelbase. it's the best car I've ever driven on track.
Oh yeah! Wow.
The suspension is dialed and the steering's dialed. The alignment is dialed. He let me drive the car. We both went to Spirit Peaks, which is a track up in Washington, and he tossed me the keys. He was like, "Here, take it for a spin." I'm like, "Really?" He's like, "Yeah." Wow. Okay. So I took it out to. They have a little area where it's a little skid pad where you can kind of just practice, like warm up the tires and kind of get reacquainted with the car. I'd at this point never driven it before. So I did, a couple of cookies, couple of figure eights. I'm like, man, this thing feels good. And so then I took it out on the track, and like, for never driving that car ever, not knowing what it can do, hadn't fully adapted to the way that it drove. Like, I drove that track. I linked every corner.
Wow.
Dang.
Like, it was the most intuitive driving drift car, best car I've ever driven as a drift car.
Wow.
The power band is perfect. I think it makes like 320 horse at the wheels.
At 2,600
And
pounds.
Yeah.
At like 14 pounds of boost. The thing is...
Well, that's a good way to segue here, Chad, because
Sure.
we're all really, really interested in, and so I know that you probably have an answer for this that we've touched on.
It's Miata.
But-
Miata is the answer.
Miata is always the answer, according to Grant. How did you get into drifting? Was it through the Excessive guys?
Honestly, Excessive was the, I would say, driving factor for sure to get me on the track and actually push the limits of my driving capabilities.
Right, because you and I have drifted now a handful of times.
Yeah.
We had some really, really, really fun events.
Yes.
But, we haven't really talked much about what both got us into drifting.
Yeah. I like I said from the beginning, like I always had an admiration for it. But I'd never, I guess, had the balls to just take my car to the track and drive it.
How did it feel being on there for the first time? Were you nervous? Was it like, okay?
It was a little bit.
Yeah.
Just because it's the unknown.
Yeah.
Right. And the first time I took my car to the track was after it was the blue car out here. It was after I had fully finished building it. So I had every Excessive part on it. It had the steering knuckles. We had the coilovers on it, adjustable control arms, the 1J swap. It was tuned. So Rich at Excessive, he also tunes cars. We have a Mustang dyno at the shop.
But no Mustang.
Okay.
I see how it is.
So he tuned the car for me. It makes 340 wheel.
Okay.
All on the stock turbo. It's a very conservative tune. So that way, my goal with it was to just keep it reliable. I don't want to be replacing parts every time I take it to a drift event. I want to be able to drive the car to the event,
drift,
beat the piss out of it all day, and then drive home.
Okay. That's a good goal.
And so that was the first. So the first time I took the car, like I said, it was right after I had put all of the Excessive parts on it. And I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't like some superstar drifter on the track, but by the end of the day, I was linking the whole course without like spinning out or having to overcorrect a bunch. So we also have a hydro e-brake in the car, so it's its own standalone brake that can. So I've got what's called a dual caliper kit on the rear of the car.
Yeah.
So it runs a separate Willwood caliper on the rotor, and it has its own master cylinder and its own lines plumbed over to it, and then big e-brake handle in the car, separate from the parking brake. And so what I meant by overcorrecting is the advantage to having that hydro e-brake or just using your e-brake and parking brake in general is you can use it to kind of modulate, like if you feel like you're about to spin out or you feel like you need to change your angle a little bit in the middle of like a drift, you can use it to lock the rear end up
and just get a sharper end. And
you could just figure out how to maneuver the car outside of using the throttle.
Yeah.
So some people call it a crutch. Some people swear by it. I don't even want to get into that.
Okay.
I just like going out there having fun.
Yeah.
And I mean, pulling that hydro brake when you're at the top of second gear, third gear, and just locking the rear end in instantly it's a great feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that was my first experience out there. It was like I said, I wasn't like super good when I first went out there.
Did you feel like after your first event, because you had done a lot of work to the car beforehand, did you feel like there was more that needed to be done after that? Did you feel like it was dialed in?
No. The only thing I've done to it is change the alignment.
Okay.
So when I went out there the first time, I set my alignment to as close to zero camber in the rear and zero toe. So my wheels were perfectly straight. And what I ended up experiencing was it was grippy, but at the same time, it was not as intuitive when it came to transitioning corners, coming out of a corner and coming into another one. And after I drove Rich's car, and he shared his alignment specs on the Mercedes, I was like, oh, I need to just copy what you did to that.
Yeah.
Right.
So I changed my toe in the rear.
I feel like that's a lot of drifting. You know, we get in cars, we sit in cars, and we sit there and we go, what do you got here?
Well, that's
Yeah.
a lot of car community.
Right.
You know, Rob does it all the time with people in the Corvette club. He's like, what'd you do, Corvette? And they'll come back and they'll adjust it.
Right.
Yeah, it's all trial and error. And every part you put on the car, you have to adapt to.
Yeah.
Right? And so I'm sure if I just kept driving it the way it was, I would just get used to it and know how to react to the way the car drove to drive it good on the track. But after driving Rich's car, I was just like, I need this. This is like a cheat code drift car. So I just copied what he did as best as I can because they're two different cars.
Yeah.
But it was a night and day difference. It's amazing what just adjusting your alignment can do to just totally change the way the car behaves.
I agree.
So yeah, as far as like the power it makes and the rigidity. So I also have, aside from the adjustable control arms and the steering knuckles, I've replaced pretty much every bushing under the car. So the subframe bushings are excessive solid polyurethane.
Okay.
So they're a Shore D hardness. So it's
harder than 98.
it's way harder.
Yeah.
On the scale, it's comparable to like a billet aluminum.
Oh, wow.
But it has none of the characteristics. So the deflection, the noise, the vibration, the harshness, totally. It's not
Solved.
like it's not like
So
riding in a car that has super stiff suspension. You don't feel like every pebble you run over.
Yeah.
It's
So
still a comfy car.
It's still somewhat streetable then.
Yeah, I mean, I've been daily driving it all over the state of Oregon, and 2 events and back. And yeah, it's never given me an issue mechanically, other than your basic wear and tear.
Yeah.
I mean, nothing lasts forever, right? So I've had to replace like the belt tensioner. But I mean, from an unknown motor from Japan that I don't know the mileage. I mean, they tell you it's 60,000 kilometers on it.
Yeah.
You don't know that.
They could tell you whatever they
tell
want.
you. Yeah. So for an unknown motor, unopened, it's been super reliable. And yeah, like I said, changed all the bushings underneath, swapped over the control arms up front with the bushings out of those with solid spherical inserts, which really changed the steering response. It feels like a go-kart.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
amazing.
I've been in your car. Compared to how we last had my car set up on the track, I mean, there was a bunch of characteristics that were different, but I feel like there were so many that were better, and that's why I've kind of tried to mimic you, especially in the rear suspension department, just because I never really touched my rear suspension except for bushings.
Mm-hmm.
And then now that I've mimicked it, it's, you know, it's like Chad warned me with my new, you know, power plant and everything else. He's like, your car's going to drive faster.
Yeah.
So, and his car drives faster.
Yeah.
So when I'm in his car, I'm like, oh my God, like we're hauling ass.
It's insane because, and here's the thing, going back to your alignment. So like before Ian swapped over to the excessive arms, he was running just factory arms, and I think you had adjustable toe arms. So you could fix the toe correction,
Correct,
right?
yeah.
But, you know, when you lower this, especially with the IS300, the way the suspension geometry works is the more you lower it, the more it cambers in and the more it toes in. And so Ian was running like 5 degrees of camber in the rear
Oh, wow.
to fit the wheel, because he's running at wider wheels in the back. So to fit those wheels without the quarter panel mods that we've done to it now, he had to run that much camber. And when you swap an LS1 into it, and you've got 215/40 rubber
Tires.
band tires on the back
right.
with 5 degrees of camber, it's like trying to tame that. I mean, it's basically you're not getting everything out of that setup because he's just, his contact patch is just not. It's just not there.
Yeah.
So it's like drifting on an ice rink.
It was.
Whereas with my car, almost no camber. I run a half a degree, so that way on up travel, when it goes positive camber, it doesn't actually go past 0 degrees. Mm-hmm. The idea is so that as it travels up, it stays at 0, and running a half a degree static is very minimal. You know, you're not going to notice the difference, right? My car running 340 horsepower with the same size tires, but just up and down with the control arms, with the solid poly bushings. You have to drive the car fast.
It's got to go fast.
It has to. There's just no other way. It just has so much grip that the only way to keep it drifting is to drive it fast.
Hang on. The blue car's got to go fast. Please tell me its name is Sonic.
I've never thought about that.
It has to be the name of that car. That's amazing.
That's pretty funny.
Not everybody names cars, Grant. But that's a good one. I'll give you that.
I don't know. I disagree with that. You should name your cars.
I know I'm the outcast here, but that's we talked about it.
I've never named a car either.
See? Okay. So and me and Chad have actually never even talked about this. But
you should go and just find a Sonic sticker and put it on there. I'm being serious. That'd be awesome.
we're the no sticker club, bro.
But 5 horsepower.
I don't like stickers either.
So, is there any tracks that you really prefer to drift at?
Honestly, the only track I've driven on is at Spirit Peaks.
Right, and I love Spirit Peaks.
And
I'm going to put that out there. It is our home track now.
Yeah, now that Pat's is gone.
We're gonna have to,
gone.
Me and Jeremy are going to have to go up with you one of
Where
these days.
is it?
It's up in Tootle, Washington.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Where's
Just
Google?
past Longview.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's just past Longview. It's up near Castle Rock.
I've driven
Yeah.
past it probably a dozen times.
Right, there's a drag strip out there too.
Yeah.
It's not far anyway.
I mean, I would have loved. So I'd been to many events at Park, and I would have loved to drive my car at Park. By the time my car was ready, was right around COVID.
Right.
So, and ever since then, I mean, they ran events through COVID, and
They
the
did.
county got really upset about it. And
Because everybody was home
Yeah.
and then listening.
yeah.
It's a sad day.
They gave them restrictions,
Right.
Because it's an outdoor track. So
Yep.
they're like, okay, it's outdoors. If you follow the social distancing guidelines, will
Right.
allow you to continue to have events
Right.
there.
Yeah.
Right.
That's how we got away with it with autocross, because every individual's in their own car by themselves. If you're on the track for shag and cones, you're at a distance. When you have to have a crowd together for safety meeting, everyone can stay at a distance.
Right.
You know.
And I want to put this out there. Anybody listening that knows this area with drifting, I mean, obviously, Pat's Acres was the primo spot, and it was the closest to Portland that we had access to.
I went there once for a drift event. It was
It
pretty
was-
sick.
it's amazing.
Well, they
right?
had just repaved it.
right. It's repaved.
So
it's
it was
widened.
smooth. Yeah,
Yeah,
it was a
it
great
just-
track.
It's an amazing place, and,
And it was
I miss
technical.
it. Yeah, and I
mean,
drifted.
But they
I-
stopped it because of noise complaints, right? Or what?
allegedly.
Allegedly.
So what's
But
the?
I think
It
I
had to do with social distancing.
I think it
and
was.
shit.
I think the COVID thing pushed them over the edge, which is total. Pat's Acres was there before they developed that land,
Right.
Right,
And they
before
were
there
doing-
was housing nearby. There was no noise complaints.
yeah.
People moved out there, and then started complaining.
right.
Yeah.
Which we've seen at many
That's-
tracks. I
yeah,
mean,
that's not the only track it's happening.
Laguna Seca is battling this right now.
Yep.
Like, I see
PAR has
something
it
about.
every so often.
Right, and so of course they do. We used to
Yeah.
do drift events at PIR back when I was a kid. You know, before Chad moved up here, we did them there, and it was epic. We did it on the tail end of the quarter mile drag strip, and we had a really nice setup, and we'd work on the cars in the parking lot. We'd party there, and it was great. And then they said no more. I mean, so it's just we're seeing it. It's a pattern.
Yeah.
Right. And so I do miss Park, and I'm bummed you never got to drive there because, you know, I luckily have, and it was amazing. I actually was there for the last public event, and nobody even knew it. And I got to drive it.
I
Really?
think that's why.
Were you there when I was there then?
I did last Summer Jam. It was 2022. Summer Jam. It's a 3-day event. It's a Matsuri.
I might
So
have.
it's 3 days.
I'm gonna have to look at my thing.
It's a
I-
Friday,
yeah.
Saturday, and Sunday. But
Yeah.
it's Friday and Saturday are invite only. And then Sunday's like an open day. But again, unfortunately, that's gone. It dug a huge hole in the heart of Pacific Northwest
did.
drifting.
Yeah.
I think that's why a lot of the drivers out here are so skilled. Mm-hmm. There's a lot
yeah.
of really strong drifters in this area in the Northwest, and I think because Pat's Acres, it's a mini go-kart track, right? So
I wouldn't call it mini, but yeah.
Well, yeah, it's a go-kart track.
Yeah.
It used to be mini, and they used to drift there then.
And so it's just like it just forces you to be a strong driver, right? And so and then those events you're talking about, you know, Park Fest, those 2
Summer
and
Jam,
3
Park
day,
Fest.
yeah, those 2 and 3 day long events. It was a huge thing. So it closing down was, it's really sad and it sucks.
Do you guys feel like with more events closing down and it's getting less and less events for people to go to, that more there you'll see more people public driving and drifting, like on the roads and the backcountry roads?
I mean,
Or-
I feel like most.
That's
Or heard of about that
I
happening?
think backcountry roads has always been a thing.
Yeah.
The street drifting, it's kind of been a thing.
Yeah.
It's not as prevalent, I don't think, as far as like what the news will tell you. But
well, you know, they think that, you know, what do they call them?
takeovers,
Takeovers
they-
are drifting.
We're all in this. We're all pushed
We're
into
not.
the same.
I mean, we're
thing,
not even
right?
close to the
Yeah.
same type of people.
No.
Like, I would never go to a takeover.
No,
That's insane.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But no, so I would say no, because there still are tracks, right?
Yes.
We still have Spirit Peaks. We still have Evergreen, right? We still have, what is it? Drift Evolution.
Villains.
Down in- and then of course Villains, which is my personal favorite.
Yeah.
Shout out to Villains.
I think-
great events, amazing events. They do Matsuris. They only do Matsuris, and it's you can camp there, and it's a big party, and people are willing to help you, and the tech is phenomenal.
I think ORP does one.
Yeah, they do. They
do?
They
Yeah.
just started again.
Oh,
So
wow.
they took a long break, and so they did 2 this year.
Yeah.
That will be a cool
And then
event to see.
Oh, it's insane because that's a fast track.
Well,
That's
there's a
big
lot of
track.
there's a lot of elevation change.
yeah.
That's what I'm
Chad, have
saying.
you ever
That's
been up
crazy.
to
Well,
ORP?
I haven't. No.
Oh,
It's out in Grass Valley, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a like what 2 mile long track.
It's a big track.
And
It's fast.
It's got up and down elevations, sweepers.
Well,
it puts PIR
And
to
I
shame.
will touch. I will,
Yeah.
of course, PIR. I mean, they don't do drifting on track there.
No.
That was the problem. The only time we drifted at PIR was, you know, a cone setup on the back end of the quarter mile track.
Yeah.
But another track that they used to drift on a few years ago was the Ridge up in what was it?
Yep.
Outside of Olympia.
Yeah.
Where is that?
It's over in
It's
Shelton
like
where we race.
Shelton. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
in Shelton. My bad. Shelton. Beautiful track. I went to a drift event there. I got to drift down the corkscrew. Freaking awesome. Mm-hmm. But, you know, they're not doing it there anymore either. And ORP didn't do it for years, but they're starting to do it now, which is cool.
Is it also because I know drifting, You have to have tracks specifically made for it because it'll start ripping the asphalt.
Of course. I mean, you're spinning tire, right?
Yeah.
You're spinning tire the whole time. Of course, it's hard on a track. And then people, and unfortunately, it seems like at least a lot of these big events that they do, people leave tires and they do shitty behavior.
Yeah.
They do shitty behavior.
Yeah.
And so it leaves bad taste in people's mouths is really what it kind of seems like. Okay, moving on. Would you scroll down a little bit, Jeremy? Chad, why do you think the IS300 is a good drift car? And why do you think it would be a bad drift car for anybody getting into drifting?
Oh. It's a good platform to start with, I think.
To start with.
Well, I mean, honestly, just all around, it's a good platform. It's super reliable. That's the thing. It's a rebadged Toyota.
Yeah.
So it's an extremely reliable chassis. The 4-door aspect is awesome. I mean, I know some guys aren't into 4 doors, but
It's a
me
compact
personally,
4-door.
yeah, it is. It was based off, so the chassis itself is based off of the Japanese variant, the Altezza, which was originally developed to be a road race car. So it's out here in the States. It's obviously it's a little heavier. You know, it's more economical. It's not, the purpose of it wasn't.
Well, they
to be,
marketed it as not a sports car.
Yeah.
It was more of a sports sedan.
Yes.
It was heavier. They put a bunch more sound editing in it.
Yes.
And shit like that.
But it's a great platform to begin to just build off of. I mean, from the get-go, if you weld the rear diff or you put an actual LSD in the back,
Which is easy to do.
which is, yeah, because they came factory with them.
Well, not only that, but, you know, like in my car, I have a BRZ diff.
Yep.
And it cost me $200.
Yeah.
And it was
Plug
pretty
and play.
much brand new.
Yeah. Yeah, you throw a manual transmission in it, and you get both rear tires to spin at the same time, and it's a great seat time car, with just a little bit of suspension and steering modification. So like taking my car to the track the way it is with the engine swap, the turbo motor, I can successfully do maybe 2.5 laps before it starts to get hot, and then you got to run a cool down, or you bring it back into the pits and you just let it cool down. But stock IS300 with the NA2J, you can just hot lap that thing all day. It will not overheat. It's just a really well built car.
At that point, you're depending on your tires, how long it lasts.
Yeah, exactly. And
It's
it
a
being
good variable.
it being underpowered, you know, at 190 wheel horsepower stock, you know, you're not shredding tires like me and Ian.
Right.
Ian especially. I mean, you throw 450, 500 wheel horsepower. I don't care
tires
what
spin
size
fast.
tire. Yeah, you're gonna chew through tires
The heat.
quick.
Heat.
Yeah. So, you know, it's a newer car compared to like the older Corollas, the Cressidas, the 240s. So it's kind of modern. It looks cool. It in my opinion, it's such a timeless design. Like,
I agree.
It's always going to look cool. Whereas like, you know, 80s cars are very boxy. Like you can pick them out in a crowd and you can tell something's off.
Well, and I'm sorry, but the 80s cars take way more to set up.
Yeah, that's true too.
Because, you know, we look at an IS and it's double wishbone suspension, monocoque chassis, monocoque tube chassis. I mean, it was ahead of its time. It was the first one that Toyota did. And then you just put steering knuckles on it and an LSD and a manual and you're ripping.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
worked.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
a great platform to start with. As far as it being like a bad car to drive or to choose, if you don't do anything to it, I guess. Like if you can't, you will
It's
never.
not like a Z, right?
Yeah. Okay. Sure. Yeah. Like a
I mean,
350Z.
I know it's apples to oranges, but let's just compare it for
Yeah, a
for
350Z.
for fun's sake.
That's a great car. Those really don't require any modification as long as you've got
Stiff
limited slip.
suspension and decent coilovers.
Yeah. But even decent, like
You don't even need it.
you don't even need it. You could throw some max speeding rods on.
So
the thing
would you
and
say
still-
that the 350Z, and we've talked about this a lot on the pod, you believe that would be the best car out of the box, price
Honestly,
wise, and
yeah.
car?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. It's a hard one to compete against. If you want the most hands off, as far as like
that's a good way to
having
put it.
to modify it, like you just want to get a car and turn the key and go have fun. That's probably the one you want to get
Okay.
right now, at
Right
least.
now, right, with the pricing and stuff. Yeah.
But I mean, everybody it's different strokes for different folks, right?
Yeah.
I mean, any E36 BMW guy is going to say no. E36 is best car.
It's true.
IS300 guy is going to IS300 is best car.
Yeah.
But if I'm being
They're all
truly
very
honest,
similar, if
Yeah.
you think about it.
yeah. I mean, rear wheel drive, 6-cylinder.
Right.
The
Exactly.
only difference is that the 350Z's got a V6, but they still make more power. They make more power than a NA2J out of an IS300.
Yeah.
I will
Way
admit
more
that.
than a E20 or 328.
Yeah.
So here's a random one to throw in the mix for a good starting drift car. What about like this is gonna sound really stupid,
I'm just gonna go with no.
like a single cab F-150 or like 90s truck with like just
The
a
only
5.0 or
reason-
something.
so
Because you got
the-
a light front back end, you
Sure.
got power.
The
in
only
it.
problem is we're talking leaf suspension in the rear. So that like if you did a rear subframe from like a Crown Vic on the rear, it would probably be pretty good.
Well,
Something
You know,
what about-
independent.
Something like 4-link.
don't you remember though? There was like this big wave of
drift
Tacomas,
trucks? Oh yeah.
drift truck
Oh,
Tacomas,
yeah,
like
dude.
those
Really?
old '90s
Oh, yeah.
Tacomas.
Okay.
those are Leaf, aren't they?
Yeah, they're
Oh,
leaf.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
So, I don't know.
Solid axle.
They're
I wouldn't.
cheap.
I just wouldn't drift a truck. It's
I
just,
mean,
Yeah.
I don't
so
know.
like
it's not a big.
I'm
truck
gonna
drifter
and I've
guy.
talked about him on the pod before. Brandon Peja, Missile Works, Denver, Colorado. Incredible fabricator, incredible driver, great guy, dear friend of mine. He has a Nissan Hardbody with a 1J non-VVTi, great car, but he literally grafted the subframe from a 240SX in the back of it. So it's really not
Okay.
a
At that
hard body
point,
anymore.
Yeah,
right?
It's
It's a 240.
It's a 240
It's
with
a 240 with a truck shell.
Truck shell on it. Yeah.
What? Here's a question for both of you guys.
And it rips. But that's the difference, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't have a solid axle leaf
Yeah.
Yeah.
suspension.
Here's a question for both of you guys. What would you recommend for someone who's trying to get into drift that only has access to their like mom and dad's car? Like, what would be the best idea if you had that? Like, I can only take
touch mom's car.
Malibu
That's a good
or
way to
whatever.
get
Like,
your
what
ass
would be like
blistered.
if you know?
Certainly not a solid axle car.
Yeah.
So like a G35 sedan or a G37 sedan, they came manual. I mean, granted, mom
basically
probably
three-
didn't opt for the manual.
It's
Yeah.
still basically a 350Z at that point.
Exactly. Yeah.
Maybe a
I mean,
little
something
heavier.
like that. Or
they're
Like a
heavier.
BMW, like
yeah,
like
E46 sedan.
yeah.
I had an E46 sedan with the, what is it? It was a ZHP, so it was the 3-liter 6-speed manual. It was a great car. I would
That'd
love.
be worth a lot right now.
I know, I sold it for nothing. It was pre-COVID. Yeah, that's one that got away for sure. But yeah, something like that, you know.
Okay. Because there's a lot of people who like want to get into drifting, but they don't have the car for that, or they've got to share and be like, oh, maybe we can go check out this event.
Well, I think like Chad and I have talked on it. Like, I truly believe that if you want an IS and you want to drift it, you have to carry a little cross, right? You have
Cross?
to, you have to carry some sort of cross because you will. Most of them aren't manual. If
Yep.
you are lucky enough to get a manual, it's gonna cost you. And then hopefully it's a LSD model. If it's not, we're gonna swap the diff minimum, and then you're gonna have to do knuckles and suspension. Well, as a 350Z, you can literally get an LSD 5-speed 350Z that's clapped like crap for like $4 to $5 grand,
Yeah.
and it'll go out there and work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you keep oiling it, it's gonna work. So, where do you weigh it? Like,
Yeah. Out the box, it's not turnkey.
it's not turnkey.
Now, if you wanted to build like a good grip car, it's also a good platform
It is.
for it.
Autocross.
Autocross, yeah. Throw some sway bars on it, coilovers, good tires. I mean, you're pretty much there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is. It'll rip. It'll do it.
So,
We brought this up earlier in the show. Do a lot of people drift Miatas?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Is
Tons.
it still a really more popular model to do out there?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, you at least see 4 to 5 at every event. And granted, they're not doing the high speed entries. They're not doing the big corners. They're not doing backies.
It's just short wheelbase and not a whole lot of power. I mean, it's kind of like
kind of a
drifting a
top.
Corolla. You have to like throw the car into turns.
So the people
right?
that are drifting them are like no engine mods. They'll just take them stock and keep low horsepower and just really, you got to handle that to get it to.
Honestly, a low horsepower drift car with very little modifications, just doing what's needed to get the thing to go sideways,
And tofu in the back.
is probably the best way as far as improving your driver's skill, because it's kind of like the way I see it, it's like a ratio. It's like a bell curve, right? Like you can build a car to the moon and it'll drive itself. You know, no offense to Ian, you throw a V8 into anything and you're always going to have power on tap.
I don't know about that. You get an 80s Corvette with 190 horses on it at the V8.
well, and I think he's talking about like a modern, like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
swapped car,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But you're right. I mean, we're not talking a Crossfire injection, fucking C4. You know, I mean, we all know those were garbage with the 4.3 transmission.
Yeah.
Whereas
It was-
if you build a car that has low power and you kind of have to fight it to get it to do the thing, like a 16 valve 4AG
Yeah.
Corolla
it's perfect.
with a
And I've owned a few. And I want to, and I'm not trying to cover for myself, but I started in low power cars, and I've drifted inline 6 turbos, Toyotas, pretty much my whole drifting career. I only got into V8 cars in the last 4 years, but I definitely prefer them now. But Chad's right. You have to be able to, you know, if you can drive the piss out of a low power 4-banger, whatever it be, a Miata,
Yeah.
BMW, Corolla, whatever it is.
You're
If you
gonna
can
be a
drive
strong
it,
driver.
and then you get in a V8 car, you're gonna smoke.
So you recommend for any driver, start low and then go like to higher.
100%.
Okay.
depends on your goal.
Yeah. Because that's
If you
kind of.
if you want to be a very technical, very skilled driver,
Yeah.
then yeah. If you want to just go out there and have fun, buy the 350Z.
Yeah.
Buy the if you can find yourself like a C5 Corvette,
Yeah.
that's like God's car to me.
Yeah.
And the C6.
Yeah. Oh well, yeah. I'm just thinking like broke drift boy
Out of the
mentality,
box,
right?
Out of the box. Like we all love 350Zs and 370s, but like best car out of the box I've ever driven, like stock.
Yeah.
Stock car is a C6 base with a manual. Best drift car. I mean, seriously, dude, it feels so good. You don't need suspension. You don't need steering. It just works.
Yeah.
And it works good.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you drove one at
Villains.
Villains, yeah.
Sick. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
It's a stock car. And I was like, dude, what?
And that's when your V8 obsession started.
No, I had a V8 at that time, but I drove that one. I'm like, wow, this is nuts.
I'm gonna have to try again.
Pretty much. I was like, I put all this work into my car.
Yeah, you think dollar
and then
per
I
horsepower.
drive this,
Yeah, dollar.
and I could have bought one.
yeah, easily.
It's like, Jesus. Okay. Car culture, Chad. What do you like about the automotive community?
Oh.
Anything?
I like this question.
So
And you can be honest.
there's two layers to this.
Okay.
Personally, I've gained so many friends, close friends, like closer friends than I ever had going through high school, other than the ones that were also into cars too.
Sure.
Being in the IS300 community in general for as long as I've been in it, I met Ian. That's how I met Ian, and him and I are, I'd consider one of my best friends. Right? We haven't known each other that long, but we're close.
Yeah,
We're family.
definitely.
And I have friends like that down in California. I could name enough to count on both my hands, of people that I would consider just as close that I am with Ian back at home. And not only that, now with social media, I mean, even before social media, when it was just the forums, I've met a great group of guys in this IS300 community just through the forums all across the country. Some of them I've been able to meet in person, which is awesome. So as far as the companionship of like meeting and making new friends, the relationships, that came with that, that's something that I would say I really like about the car community.
And you think
right?
you probably couldn't have done it without it.
No, if I didn't buy that car in 2009, I don't even know where I'd be right now.
Wow.
Right? Because that's
profound, man.
That's where I learned how to wrench, working on that car specifically. Now, sure, I might have ended up, if I bought the Scion TC or the Honda Civic or Mazda 3 or whatever, right?
Whatever it may have been.
It may have blossomed into the same thing, but just in a different community. But I don't know that.
Yeah.
What I do know is that this car has taught me pretty much everything that I know now, or at least put me on the trajectory to get where I'm at now, working at Excessive, working in the trade.
Right.
It's given me all the mechanical skills, knowledge, all that troubleshooting, diagnosing, just the mentality of just like persevering through. You come across a problem, or I blow up an engine. What do I do now?
Right.
And having to just figure it out.
Well, that, and you have people to talk to and bounce ideas off of,
Exactly.
or whatever.
Exactly.
No, I agree with that. That's a really good point, man, because it's like, on top of me and you meeting each other, it's like everybody that I know, it's nearly everybody I know I've met through the car community. So I agree. The camaraderie is huge. What do you think is the worst part about the community? If you had to pick one, you don't have to pick one, but just let's talk about ideas.
And I don't even know if this is like a car community thing exclusively, or if it's just because of the age of technology and social media that we live in today, right?
That's good.
But just like the constant desire to chase the clout, right?
Yes.
What's clout?
Clout is basically like the hype you get, the likes you get, you get more followers.
Popularity.
It's popularity
Yeah.
in the community.
Yeah. Everybody wants
and
to
hype.
be
It's just hype.
a celebrity or,
Or an influencer.
known, right?
My car's TikTok famous.
To have an audience or a fan base. And it's just like a lot of guys, what happens, it gets to their head, and I think a lot of guys lose themselves. They lose their identity, and their online persona consumes them, and they believe that to be like, this is real life. Wow. Or really, it's not. And I can think of guys right now that are consumed by that.
Me too.
That I know personally. When it's like, you're just a person, you're no better than anyone else.
Yeah.
And how did it come this far?
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
just so much ego and no humility, So the kind of toxicity that comes with that,
It is. Yeah,
I
it is
don't
toxic
I
behavior.
don't like it. I think the peak was right before Facebook blew up. And there was like Facebook groups, and then the Instagram and Snapchat and TikTok, everything that followed afterwards.
Yeah.
When it was just forums, as far as like communicating with other people, like-minded people, that was the thing. Everybody had...
And then they emailed each other, and it was very personal. I
Everybody,
agree.
like most car enthusiasts back then in like the early 2000s were car enthusiasts, DIY guys that knew how to do stuff themselves, and they could wrench on their own cars, at least to a degree. And so there was like a common ground there. And now it's just like anyone can just go buy a car and then, you know, have a shop build it, take some pictures of it, put it online, and chase the
There's
cloud.
so many people who do that.
Right?
It's crazy.
They couldn't tell you any about what's under the hood or you know what they've actually done to the car themselves, other than like, oh, I paid a shop to do this.
Yeah, it's
Look at this sick
We've
car.
talked about this a few times.
And they say,
too,
you know,
boys.
what drives me crazy is calling it a build. You know, like, oh, look at this car I built, and it's
Oh,
like,
I like
nah,
this.
dude,
Is
you
good.
paid somebody to do it for you, which I can respect.
Let's get into that,
Because
Chad.
I understand time is money.
Yeah.
Okay. So like, if you're in a position financially to be able to pay someone to do the work, that's fine. But just like, don't say I built this thing,
Well, you didn't build it.
right?
And we've talked about this many times, but I really like to talk to you about it because it's interesting. Because, you know, and here's the thing, and I'm not faulting anybody that doesn't know how to work on their own cars. Yeah. I'm not anybody that, you know, because we've heard it, I've seen it in the comments of our show.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, well, I don't know how to work on my car, but not to say I don't like modifying it or I don't like driving it. But that's okay. But don't say
I built it.
I built
built
it.
it. Yeah.
Now, I have mixed feelings about that. So, if you're a guy that says you've built the car,
Okay.
Or girl.
or
Or a
female,
woman.
yeah, right.
We don't discriminate.
person.
Now, if you've built most of the car but farmed out part of it, I think you can still call it your build.
Like if you're not a welder and you couldn't,
Right,
like,
yeah.
yeah.
Okay, somebody
No
built
problem
the
with
tube
that.
chassis.
There was a vision.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You had it.
Or
were in control
You know,
of it,
you
yeah.
farmed out somebody piecing the motor back together for you.
Yeah, or body
you know.
work.
But I think Chad,
Yeah.
what Chad's talking about is a little different.
Yeah.
And I agree.
Like,
because
somebody actually went and found this car that was already done and bought it. And
well, they
said,
were
"It's
searching
my
for a
built
car that was done.
Yeah.
right.
And then they're like, this is my car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. There is a difference. It is a fine line, but I do think there's a difference.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I get that. The one word that keeps coming to mind is Grantana, but so that's an alter ego online personality to have. So spoilers for the show.
Here we go.
This is Grant, you know. But then there's Grantana. Hey guys, what's going on? We're going to be building this in the shop today.
Is that Park Ranger Grant?
That's Park Ranger Grant.
It's the same thing.
So, but like with that, when I would be building cars for online and stuff, you know, I'd have my shop and then I would do that and show people how it's done and whatnot. You know,
Right,
nothing
well,
was ever
which is
sent
sick.
out.
Which is sick.
Yeah.
But anyways, I appreciate you touching on that.
Yeah.
Chad, especially.
I was gonna.
Go ahead.
I was gonna finish my thought on that. I was gonna say it's like so finishing and building builds in my shop and doing that, and you would see progression over time. But people, I would see online bigger influencer people start out and getting bigger because they'd be like, "Look, the car's already done," and not a lot of people want to go along the journey with that.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing, and it's like I'm proud of you for saving up the money and buying a built car,
Yeah.
track ready car, like that.
But
that,
don't
that
tell me
takes
you
work
built
too. But don't say I built it. It was my
Yeah.
vision. It wasn't your vision.
Yeah.
And then you get cars like ours or Chad's. I mean, like
Maybe it was
we built
part-
it. Like
Yeah,
me and
may-
Chad literally built my car, and I've
Yeah.
I've helped
Yeah.
him build his car as best I can.
Sonic.
But it's different. Yeah, I guess it's Sonic now. I mean, it's just crazy,
Icicle,
but it's
Sonic.
very accurate too.
So, best worst thing about the car community, from my point of view, is people being brand specific. Right?
Really?
Yeah. Now, I love seeing a build. I think it's the coolest part about what we do here, right? And I kind of like and dislike like the whole Ford versus Chevy.
Oh, I hate it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's silly.
It's funny, right?
It is funny.
It's funny. It's funny to watch.
It's like, I'm Chevy, man.
yeah, Mustang is way better than Corvette. You know, whatever.
It just sounds like an argument between me and Rob.
Exactly. Or you
that
know
too.
the Dodge truck and the Ford truck. and
Yeah.
the Chevy truck. You know, and like that
It's
whole
silly.
thing is funny to me. Like
Yeah.
I have never been brand specific.
Yeah.
My dad was growing up. He was a Ford truck guy through and through. And I've owned...
The truck guys are my favorite.
Oh, yeah. I've owned Fords, Chevys, Dodges, Toyotas.
Yeah.
And out of all of those, I think the Toyota was the nicest to drive, and I think the Ford was the best towing vehicle.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
You know?
here we go. I mean, the reality is like, I've always drifted Toyotas. Always. And I'm proud of that because they've worked well for me. And I worked on them and they did the job. But when it comes to trucks or cars, like, I think it's silly. Like, I only drive Chevy trucks. Like, that's crazy, man. Like, because Fords have had great motors. Chevys had great motors.
Yep.
Dodges obviously have Cummins and everything else. Like, if somebody's brand specific to a truck or something so minimal as like a Econobox sedan, that's insane.
Yeah.
It's not like it's like your drift car
Yeah.
or your autocross car.
I'm going to say the worst brand, though, is people that are Tesla and be like, it's the end-all,
yeah.
be-all.
They're like,
this is the best."
go faster
I
than
just
you.
threw my mouth.
I'm just, yeah.
Well, we've hated on Tesla enough on
Yeah.
this, but you're right.
Yeah.
Because the Tesla boys always come up to me at a light and they hear my car chopping. And they're like, how many horsepower? I'm like, I don't know.
More than your
four
sister.
something. And they're like, ha, 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 mine's got 700. I'm like,
No, it doesn't.
cool, dude. And they're like, let's
It's-
race. And I'm like, bro, I don't want to race. Like, that's not what this car was.
No, it wasn't
for.
built for that.
Not only that, but that's not a flex.
Let's
But
go
that's
slide
all they-
around a track
but that's
together.
all- but that's all they think the flex is. It's just fast in a straight line.
You got a
You also have a-
$60,000 loan,
And it's
and bought a
50,
Tesla.
and
Yeah.
it's 5,500 pounds.
Yeah, it weighs as much as a minivan. Sure, you
Oh,
put two
yeah.
electric motors in that thing, and you know, I will submit and say that electric motors
They're
on
sick.
paper
They're sick.
they make more power.
The moment
they're
they
more
can
efficient,
make an ultra lightweight battery, I'm in.
but it's like
I'm in.
there's more to the driving experience than just being able to push your foot on the pedal and go fast.
Yes.
I want the sound.
Yep.
I want the smell.
Feel.
I want the feel. I
feel.
want
That's a big one.
all of
Feel.
my senses to be triggered. Not just because, like, I've driven a Tesla, not a Plaid or anything, but you know, one of the P90 or
It's a
90D,
P90D.
right?
The
It's
one
a
that
dual
Rich has,
motor.
right?
Yeah, it's a dual motor,
It's a sick car.
and it does. It has a.
100D.
It's
Well,
got like a
Rich
three.
has a 90D.
Yeah.
It's like a 300 something horsepower electric motor that drives the back wheels and a 300 or 400 horsepower electric motor that drives the front wheels. So combined, it's like 700
It's
horsepower.
fast as
Yeah.
hell.
And it is. I will say I'm impressed with the performance. It's like driving, but it's weird because it's like driving a go-kart. Like you don't hear the sound, you just push. It's like driving a golf cart. Sorry, not
It's
a
a
go-kart.
golf cart.
It's like
It is.
driving
That's a
a
good way to
golf
put it.
cart that but you're just fully encased. It's got doors on it, and you go really fast. But that's it.
You know what I thought about it when I drove one?
What's that?
They're fucking herky-jerky.
They are.
Well, dude, they weigh a ton.
They
And
weigh a
it-
ton, but when you're driving down the freeway and you're like trying to stay in the lane, it like wants to jerk
won't
that
even do
steering
it?
wheel out of your
It won't
fucking
even do
hand.
it?
No, it's like
So here's my
Maybe
biggest
that's why they have
here's my biggest
self-driving.
problem too.
So,
And we've touched on this pod before, and I hate to keep bringing it up and beating a dead horse. I'm sure our listeners are sick of me saying it, but let's look at a 2013 Model S P90D, just like Rich's.
Go
Or
buy-
I'm sure his is like, I think it's a 16 or whatever it
With
is.
the battery almost dead.
Yeah,
Right.
go buy a new battery.
Okay, so you can buy one right now
Yep.
for
Yeah.
$10,000.
Yep.
and
And they cost
$30,000 in
$100
battery.
grand new.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah.
that they lost 90% of their value, and you have to drop 30 into it.
So,
Yeah.
There's a problem.
yeah, because
Who
pass.
wants to? That's not a. It's not a revolutionizing car.
Ian, I'm going to interrupt because kind of like people be like, well, most cars lose their value. Let's just take the Mustang and
But
say
90%. But
Not
90%.
90%.
you not 90 because like you say a Mustang you can get my year for about 10 grand.
Sure.
They were new about
30.
25, 30.
Yeah.
You're still
Yeah, but a
holding
nice one is going to cost 25.
Yeah. And the fact
But it only costs what 45.
some when
So
they were
what,
new
30% value
Yeah, and it's not
loss?
that, but you
That's
have
not-
a
that you
Tesla that goes
can't-
from 100 grand down.
Grant, you
Right.
can't compare
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm trying to say to our listeners. If they're trying to make that, if anyone comes and says the argument, well, everything has depreciating value, not like
90%.
that. No, unless you're in a Mercedes or BMW.
You give it
Even
another
those don't.
10, 20 years. They're just not there yet
Yeah.
with the tech. I think in the next couple decades, you'll probably see.
It's going to be amazing.
Batteries will be better, right?
Well,
Yeah.
not only
Probably
that,
already have them, but
and lightweight and better charge and
Yeah.
better range, which is dope.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, because I like hybrids. Right?
oh, my RAV4 is great, dude.
It's an amazing
a
hybrid.
good family car.
Yeah.
Of course,
it serves its purpose.
and it's all wheel, right?
Yeah.
It's amazing. That's sick. You got electric power in the front. You got or
Mm-hmm.
whatever it may be, rears or whatever. It's a sick car, and I'm not saying that they don't deserve. We should talk about them, especially on this pod because they're so prevalent.
Yeah.
But the reality is let's look at cars like the ZR1 Corvette, right? That's a badass car. Makes 1,000 wheel horsepower.
Yep.
Between both drivetrains.
233 miles per hour confirmed.
It's insane. Factory for less than $100,000.
Yeah.
Here's the.
Can we even? Is there even a? There's not even a competition.
No.
You can't beat that. You can't beat 233 miles an hour, 1,000 horsepower for less than $100,000.
Sure.
It can't even fall off an airplane.
Now this is
Right.
and this thought just crossed my mind when it comes to like what you like dislike about the car.
Perfect.
The bar just keeps getting higher.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so like in 2005, achieving 300,
500.
500.
or even
Yeah.
let's just
2005 was dope for
let's
AMG.
Just, let's just
AMG
let's
was
just think about
killing
like IS community, right?
Okay.
300 horsepower was like that was like you're God. That is
was.
like the magic. Like if you could break 300 horsepower, that was impressive. And
I mean,
and-
to me, it is still impressive.
and now it's
Yeah.
like your base model Camry, V6
330.
is going to be
Base
the
model.
bar just keeps getting high. And so here's where I'm going with
Yeah.
it is that the average person should not be able to purchase 1,000 horsepower
No, I
ZR1
agree.
and drive it on the street.
Yeah.
that day.
Yeah.
Who has
You
no
literally
experience.
go sign paperwork and you have 1,000 horsepower.
If
Yeah.
you know how to drive a 1,000 horsepower car, sure, be my guest.
But that's how we keep getting all these Hellcats wrecked.
But exactly,
You know,
if
It's
they
a
aren't
200 mile
stolen
an hour car.
and
So-
then taken to a takeover.
Always a takeover.
I'm gonna get on my soapbox real fast.
Oh,
okay.
fuck.
So
Let's keep it short. We have so much more to go.
RCR, Regular Car Reviews, actually did a review on the Mustang, and this is relevant, okay?
Okay.
Because a lot of people who think they can get into a high horsepower rear-wheel drive car after driving like Ford Focuses or
Yeah.
GTIs,
Toyota
I had a
with-
Focus
whatever
ST.
front-wheel drive or all-wheel drive with a lot more horsepower, like. For example, my Mustang, and they talked about this on RCR, only 300 horses. Well, I've driven 500 horses, all-wheel drive, blah, blah, blah. The moment someone gets in a rear-wheel drive with that much power and torque, it's going to throw them off because you don't have your...
Control.
Exactly. And a lot of people, it throws them for a loop, and you don't need, 500 horses to be keeping up, because it's going to just throw you for a loop and you're going to spin and break out,
Of course.
you know?
You're going to have oversteer.
You're gonna Mustang out and kill a crowd.
Exactly.
oversteer, bro.
Yeah, and that's what happens. A lot of people are like, I got this. Or the moment they want to show off and they've never showed off or pushed that.
Well, and like Chad said, we're number blind.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Everybody's number blind now. They think 300 is nothing. They think 400 is nothing. I'm sorry. If you're in a sub 3,000 pound car and you have 450 horsepower,
That's good.
you're going to fucking,
yeah.
you're going to wreck.
I keep...
Yeah.
If
you
you're
don't know what
going,
you're
doing.
do you know what you're doing?
Yeah.
Because if you don't,
Yeah.
you're gonna get hurt.
I keep trying right now. Realistically, I have a lot of friends who keep trying to get Mustangs, and everyone I've met who says they need a Mustang is convinced they need a
GT
5.0.
500.
No, they need a 5.0, and I always use the argument like, you don't need a 5.0. I'm running 100 horses less than my 4.6, and you guys can't even keep up with me. You start low and build up. If you can master that, then great. Then go on to that. But if
There's
you're
that
starting at
mindset, yeah.
400, 460, 480 horses as your first car rear wheel drive.
It's a lot of car for someone who doesn't have any experience.
Exactly.
It's a lot of cars.
Exactly. And,
And,
if
and
as
we're
soon
number
as-
blind, and that goes into the number blind.
And the
thing.
other big thing is people like to turn off the traction control because I got to beat the big man.
Yeah.
You know, I got to
Yeah.
burn the tires off.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's see how much fun it'll be once the pole's right there.
Yeah.
Chad, if you could have any car, what would it be?
C5 Corvette.
Okay, and we're talking Z06.
I don't care.
See,
As long as it's
I
manual.
like this.
I like the flip up headlights.
Yeah.
C6s are great. And here's the thing too.
It was a better car overall.
I'm not
Let's be honest. The C6 was amazing.
I'm not a
I'm not saying looks wise, but performance.
Oh yeah. I will not I won't debate that at all.
C5 did look good.
I come from this, like, there's a nostalgia, and this is probably from just my age group, right? I'm 34 years old.
High five. I just turned that the other day.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. So
I knew you guys
like,
were close.
I would prefer a car from like the mid 2000s.
Yeah.
Over an older or newer car. Like I said, I got a RAV4. It's a 2020, a 2022 RAV4, and it's great as a family car.
Yep.
It serves its purpose. But as far as like, there's a certain, and maybe it's just because of like coming up as a young adult, you know, the types of cars, when you're sitting in the car, what you expect to see on the dash, steering wheel, center console. To me, I just feel more at home. I don't know what it is, but with a mid 2000s, and I think that's why I'm so drawn to the IS 300.
What year did you graduate?
2008.
That makes sense.
I graduated.
I mean,
year after
that
you.
was like when you were like,
So,
ready to rock.
I
When you
graduated-
got into cars.
I graduated in 96. And if I look back, like, what car would I love to have in my garage? Toyota Supra.
It's very similar.
RX-7.
Right.
Third
like
gen.
they're FD.
The FD.
Even a Gen 2.
Even
yeah,
an
I would
FC.
fucking FC. Yeah.
I
would.
feel like I'm out of time right now.
In the tailpipe right now.
Yeah. The 190E.
Yeah.
I fucking love that car.
So like newer cars, just don't. I don't know. Yeah, I'm impressed,
They're unobtainium.
and that's the thing.
For newer cars?
So
Yeah.
well, here's like
I don't want to spend $1,000 a month on a payment
like,
for a new car. I
no.
could get one.
people.
Do I want to?
I've been asked this question many times, and when I give them the most boring answer, I want a 2005 Corvette.
Yeah. I want
know,
a
When you put
C5
it-
Corvette.
When you
You
put
know.
it like that, Chad, it's so.
So, what,
It sounds bland.
Wait,
man.
of all the cars, I'm not into Ferraris. I'm not into Lambos. I'm not into the Bugatti. Like, all those cars are impressive to me.
Sorry, Grant.
Yeah.
They are
Right.
cool.
Hurt.
But I
But
can't
like,
afford
it's
to even
so
maintain
it's
it.
so unobtainable to me that I just don't. I've never even given it the time of day
God,
to
but they're
even
fun to
look
drive,
into.
though.
And that's the thing. So,
So-
I've never driven. So okay, that's a lie. When I lived in California, before I moved up here, for a very brief amount of time, I worked at a Four Seasons as a valet in the Four Seasons Hotel.
Whoa.
Yeah, dude. Four Seasons in
It's highbrow.
Westlake, California.
Highbrow.
So this is like celebrities and pro athletes, lawyers. I mean, this is a high affluent area.
Yeah.
So I have driven some nice cars. I mean, just parking them. So it's not actually driving them.
But it's more than most people do.
yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
So like, I mean, your typical everyday whatever car, it would be an AMG or an M Series BMW, brand new for its time.
And badass.
And yeah, when I first started, I was like, oh yeah, because there's usually multiple valets working at the same time, right? And like, I got hired because I could drive a stick shift, and so anytime like a badass M3 would come in, if it was a manual transmission, they would just let me drive it. And in the beginning, I was like, hell yeah, this is sick.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And then eventually it kind of just wore off. I'm like, oh, another M3. Oh, another C63. Oh, you know.
you got nose blind.
Yeah. And there's, you know, I got to Lamborghini. I got to park a Ferrari, Porsches all the time. I think the coolest out of all of like
GT3 and
the
shit?
higher end cars, not like the Lambos, but like the higher, like the AMGs, the M's, Porsches. I think my favorite car to drive
Those
were
are
the
2005
Porsches. Was the
Corvette.
no, the Porsches. Yeah, I got to drive.
Cayman S.
I got to park a GT3 RS.
Oh, very cool.
Okay, now
And
we're
it was
talking.
like full roll cage. Like the dude actually autocrossed it or whatever. Took
Yeah.
it to the track. Full cage, fire extinguisher, Recaro's like
Wow.
badass car. I'm like,
Nice.
this
That is a badass
This is
car.
freaking cool. So there's a place for them. I do appreciate them, but like I said, so unobtainable to me that I just don't. I don't daydream about
Yeah.
owning a Lamborghini. And so like that's not impressive to me. I mean, it is.
I get it.
But it's just
I'm
not
the
like
same exact way.
if you had a Lamborghini at a light and like a 94 Toyota Supra next to it, I'd be looking at the Supra.
Me too. Me too.
That's just
100%.
That's where I'm at.
All right,
love
so
it.
I'm going to jump us forward, but we can move back after this.
Okay, go ahead.
So, that being said, since we're already on this topic, what are the 3 vehicles you want to drive someday?
Ooh, that's a good question. I've never really thought about it.
And that's all vehicles.
Yeah,
That's-
and there's
yeah.
a reason we say vehicles.
We're talking
and not
trucks,
cars.
bikes,
Hovercraft.
whatever.
One dude said tank.
One guy said a belly tank.
Yeah,
That's what I meant. Yeah, that was
belly
cool.
tank.
Yeah, remember the belly tank car for the 1950s, built off an aircraft.
It's a hovercraft.
No, it
Right?
was the drag car. Who was it? It was.
I don't know. You can go back.
Doesn't matter.
I'm gonna look it up. I'll show
I got
you
to
guys.
think about that one because like
Okay.
I've never daydreamed about driving, owning other car, right? So
just
like
driving them.
just drive.
We're just talking driving. You don't have one off the rip?
Dude, I honestly can't think of like a car or a vehicle, I guess, that I've never had the opportunity to drive.
Not even like a 90s F1 V12 car or anything?
That'd
Or
be cool.
the Huna truck, or
Dude, like that stuff is just
You don't even think
never-
about it. You stay in your
No,
lane,
I
dude.
stay in my lane 100%, dude. I'm serious. Like even those badass cars that you see like Hoonigan build or Adam LZ or someone,
Well, I don't watch that shit either, but
I don't
there's
know.
like cars like like I'd love to drive like a GT3 like 993
Sure.
turbo.
Sure.
Like I'd love that. Like that's like it lasts to the air cooled, no driving dynamics, no ABS. Like,
Yeah.
just freaking badass, purest sports
I,
car.
guess I haven't really like researched
That's-
into
that's
that.
top three for
I've
me.
just, I don't know, dude. I feel like I've driven a lot of different cars, and I don't know. It's just so not gearheaded of me to say, right? I've never. I don't know.
so let me.
What-
I appreciate it.
What about movie
appreciate it.
cars or trucks?
Movie cars?
Yeah, we got a bunch at the park. We got Explorers and Jeeps.
Oh my god, stop.
So let me change that question a little bit then.
Sure.
What are the 3 favorite cars you've driven?
Oh, okay. Rich's 190E.
Oof.
Okay.
Good car.
Because here's what I'm going off of too. I'm going off of like what I've driven and actually driven the car, not just like commuted it somewhere,
You
But, like,
actually pushed it.
hammering on it.
Yeah.
Right. Rich's 190E.
Mm-hmm.
My buddy Brian. Shout out to Brian.
Yeah, shout him out.
He had an Evo 8.
Oof.
Okay,
Great
and
car.
this
Great car.
was in 2010 ish era. Okay, so like
Those were like an 05.
yeah,
Go 506. Yeah.
and it had full bolt-ons, and it was tuned.
Good car.
And I remember the day he bought that car, he didn't even know how to drive stick shift. He had an Acura RSX base model, automatic. He bought the Evo, and Brian, even though he didn't have he didn't start off with a badass car. Like he was as gearhead as it comes. Like, he was pure automotive enthusiast. He read the Motor Trend magazines. He was on top of like what was cool, what was
Finger on the pulse.
exactly. So he bought that car. His dad drove it home for him, and I think he drove it to my house barely because he lived down the street. He handed me the keys, and this was just a bone stock Evo at this point.
Sick though.
I think it was
Brand new.
stock suspension, stock exhaust, stock everything. And he's like, I don't know how to drive this thing yet. Can you show me how to drive it? And so like we just drove it around town, and I just started getting really comfortable with it. And we're just driving through like neighborhood streets, and I'm just ripping up and down these streets. and
That's a
then
great car.
amazing car.
Please tell me it had anti-legs, so just you're through the streets.
No. It was stock
bro.
it was stock at that point.
No.
And when he did get it tuned, it didn't have the anti-lag, but he slowly built it and then got it tuned, and then at that point the Lexus was turboed for its first time, and on 7 pounds of boost, and he still walked away from me.
Oh, of course.
So I don't know. He never got it dynoed. It was just street tuned.
They're like mid 300s.
Easily.
They're great cars.
Easily.
Great
and
cars.
to this day, I mean, out here, especially out here in our climate, like all-wheel drive cars are like a necessity when it comes to wintertime, right?
Yep.
And like all you see out here is Subarus.
Yep.
Yep.
Terrible.
Never see
Sorry,
Evo.
Max.
You'll never see Evo 8s and 9s out here. It's so rare.
Yeah.
But every time I do, I'm like, oh man, I wish I had one.
You ever have one of those, each of those sitting next to each other, a WRX and an Evo, and close the doors at the same time?
No.
What? Why?
Oh my God.
Is it
Why
different?
would you
Is
close
it night and
them?
day difference?
So the Evo doors,
Uh-huh.
when they close, sound solid.
Mm-hmm.
And the
Well, I mean,
WRX
even-
souned like a tin can.
Really?
if you
I
look-
figured it'd be the
if-
opposite.
No, it's
No.
not. If you look at side by side that Top Gear's done over the years,
Yep.
on the 7, 8, 9s, and 10,
The Evo,
the Evo walks
way
all over
better
it.
built.
Walks all over it. Just performance.
Less displacement too. 2 liter.
Yeah.
STI is a 2.5, right?
Yep.
And I think with the door closing thing, I can't speak on the newer Subarus, but like the same era
Same
as
era.
Evo 8 and 9, they didn't have a B pillar,
Right. I loved that.
right?
I love the clean
So
clean
it-
window line.
It was just a window with the
So
Subarus,
good.
right?
so good.
So that
well, it was
might-
a hidden B pillar.
That might sure,
But you're
that,
right.
Maybe that
It
might be
looked
the,
just
the
like
door
glass.
open door close thing.
So
might
good.
it might be less structural or something. But
Maybe, yeah.
but I've always preferred Evo 8, Evo 9.
Me too.
I've driven Evo 10s. I've had a couple buddies that have had them tuned, bolt-ons tuned. They're cool cars, but they didn't have the same spirit
Or
as
feel.
the generation before.
You
They
know
were so
why?
much bigger.
I feel like it feels a lot more like an IS.
You think so?
No, I'm not the 10. The 8, 9.
Oh yeah.
It feels like it's
They're
got the small
nimble.
wheel.
Yeah,
They're nimble.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
it feels like a sports compact.
Like
Whereas the 10 felt like a big sedan.
10 was,
like,
they were tanks
Yeah,
compared to the 8s and 9s.
I think the 10 fell off.
It did.
After the 10, I was like,
Wasn't the first one we got the 10? The Evo 10?
no.
Which one? Or we got the Evo 8?
7.
In the U.S.
E8 in the 8 in the US.
Was it the 8?
it 8?
Okay.
8.
I guess, yeah. Because the
I have
7
seen
was like...
7s here.
Were the
Well,
7s
now-
based on a
yeah.
Mirage,
Yes.
right? So we had a Mirage out
No, I
here, but it
think
was
the
non-turbo.
the 7 was still based on the
was still an
8
Evo.
sedan. It's still an Evo, but the 7 looked like an 8. It was like a pre-gen
For sure.
But the like 4, 5, and 6 were all on the Mirage.
Gotcha. Yeah, I driven a 10,
Um,
and it was, different feel.
Yeah.
4B11 is just not... It's not a 4G63. Totally different engine. Different sound, different feel.
100%.
Yeah.
I agree.
Chad, you brought up...
But they were still better. But real quick,
Okay.
Grant, sorry.
It's all good.
What is your hard no car?
Front wheel drive
No.
cars.
Okay, good.
I just don't.
All?
I'm just not a big fan. Okay, you know what? Driving
Come
in the
on, there's some good front wheel drive cars.
driving in the snow and in the winter, they are superior to rear wheel drive. I will say
That's
it.
fun.
But there's some performance front wheel drive cars that are sick. in my opinion. I mean, granted, I agree. I don't prefer
In general,
them.
I'm just not a big front wheel drive guy. But I will also submit and say that, yeah, there are some that are superior to, right?
Fiesta ST, great car.
Sure.
Full
I hate the
bolt-ons?
way it looks.
Me too, but they freaking rip.
I
After
won't deny
driving
it.
one with full bolt-ons, I was
don't
like,
deny it.
dude, this car is sick.
My buddy Rob had a Mazda Speed 3 hatchback.
Sick.
And I was truly impressed. And all he did to it was bolt-ons and a tune.
Yeah.
And I was like, damn, this thing blows the doors off my IS
All day.
with 7 boost. And so, yeah, there's a place for them. But I'm just not a front-wheel drive guy. So, like, cars I wouldn't
Damn,
drive.
you're a purist.
Big no. GTIs.
Thank
Jettas.
you. Okay,
Okay,
Volkswagens.
Volkswagen front-wheel drive. And I think it's
Oh,
more
no,
just
no,
like
no,
the
Let
community.
them talk, Grant.
Okay.
The type of people.
Okay.
No offense to all the GTI and Volkswagen heads out there, but
Arturo's somewhere shaking his head.
If you guys couldn't tell, me and Chad are friends.
yeah, Club Dub guys, I'm just not a big Volkswagen guy, but I have a 1971 Super Beetle at my mom's house. That's a cool car.
Yeah, well, the air cooled are
I
different.
bought it from the original owner, and the motor's been rebuilt. It has like 1,000 miles on it.
Oh wow.
It's a cool car. Before that, my dad built resto modded a 1971. It's a 1970s Carmen Ghia.
Oh, those are cool.
I'd love to
That's
have
cool.
one. Poor man's
those
Porsche.
ones.
I'd
Yeah.
love
Yeah,
to
like
have
a
another one.
squareback or a fastback. Those are cool.
Carmen
Yeah.
Ghia?
I like air cooled Volkswagen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I omit those from like the Volkswagen crowd.
I agree with
right?
that. They're
But I'm
not
just-
water cooled.
I don't know. I'm just not a big Volkswagen guy. Honda guy. Not a big Honda guy. Yeah, the Civic Type R's, whatever, direct injection K20, like, yeah, it's impressive, but I'm just not a big Honda guy. Yeah, front wheel drive cars, big no for me.
So then, like, if you could narrow it down to one, it's like, here's the keys. That's all you're getting, and nothing else.
GTA.
Like, what is like you're past them no matter what. Like, you'd rather walk.
Well, my wife has a Ford Focus, so like I've been commuting that.
Okay.
I don't mind them.
With the automatic dual clutch.
yeah, it's garbage.
It's a DCD. He actually has a spare one.
I have
in
a
his
spare
yard.
transmission at my house
Yeah.
because I thought it went out because it slips.
You know you're supposed to. So I'll talk
Oh
to you
my
about that. My
God.
buddy, he's got one. We gone through it like crazy, but you're supposed to
God.
drive them actually rough.
So I've done that.
So it goes and engages and stuff.
I've done it before and it fixed it temporarily,
Yeah.
but then it just still slips.
Yep.
That's a real thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What
You're
is
supposed to just
Did
like
you send?
pedal to the metal.
Yep.
And then brake really hard.
Yep. You
and
need
then
to drive like a race car.
to the yeah.
so
you
you
gotta
do an
drive it.
Italian tune-up.
Yeah, you gotta
Yeah.
exactly.
With your Focus though, they do have a recall, and they will swap out your computer and some other shit.
Does that
for
fix it though?
It helps.
Does it?
Yeah, I think Antonio got his, but there's a weight on it, and regardless, there's a warranty that they give on Focus for certain years. Still,
It's a 2014.
still within if you get it this year because it's 10 years.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you could talk to the factory
Oh.
and they'll tell them that helps out and helps out with future stuff.
Interesting.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
That'd be
Well, I
so
mean, I've seen it on YouTube too. There's a guy that like fixed it
Yeah,
by changing the dual clutch to a different like aftermarket clutch.
yeah, it doesn't help. It doesn't. No matter what, that clutch is going to fail.
Yeah.
those dual clutches.
yeah.
But there's remedies that makes it go longer. So the hard no,
Hard no. Okay, I'm gonna change gears with this.
All right.
Hard no. Do you guys remember the Pontiac Aztec?
Oh,
yeah.
yeah. It's the Heisenberg.
Oh, it's
That'd be a
the
hard-
Heisenberg.
That would be a hard
predecessor to the garbage truck. I mean, Tesla truck.
The Cybercuck?
yeah.
Yeah, that or the what's
Cyber
the other one? The Kia Soul.
Oh, God.
You remember those commercials when they
that's
first
a
came out?
throwaway car.
Yeah.
Yeah, with the hamsters.
Yeah.
Cool. Hey, I got a PT Cruiser out there. I'm going to toss you the keys.
Dude,
Hey,
okay,
but
so
you know
we-
those
me
things
and-
are
we've
still
talked
on the
about it a
road
lot.
today, though.
they are.
Well, I'll tell you what. If you're lucky enough to see a PT Cruiser convertible Woody, which they made.
Yep.
I remember.
I'm gonna be clear. If you see one on the road today, whoever owns that is carrying the
So that just
fucking
reminded me
cross.
too.
With a turbo and a 5-speed.
Yeah, and they made them.
We're buying four. We're buying 4, and we're gonna do a demolition derby. With
Oh,
them.
dude, we should talk.
I've got a PT Cruiser neighbor one block over.
Oh, wow.
And dude, it's decked out, man. It's got all the AutoZone like chrome
Oh, yeah.
trims and everything on it, like, and it's a turbo.
Yeah.
Oh, of course.
Oh,
It's a
gosh.
turbo. This guy loves his PT.
Is it a vert?
No, it's not a vert, but they
Oh.
have multiple PT Cruisers at
That
his
would
It'd be
house.
worth the $300 to buy it.
What was
Dude,
that?
I need a vert.
I got another hard no.
I need
Okay.
a vert. I
What
need a
was
vert.
that? Do you guys actually I got 2 more hard no's?
Okay.
Perfect. That's 3
Nose,
hard
the top
no's.
3.
We're doing really good on the hard no one.
Okay, the what was that called? It was like a Corvette. It had a
Okay.
Corvette engine. What was it the Chevy?
Firebird?
No, the Chevy. It like looks like an old.
Corvair?
It's like a truck.
Cor-
but
Oh.
no.
Oh, you're talking about the Love?
No.
No,
The
no.
newer. What was it? It's like
Oh, the SSR.
Yeah.
Oh, we've
Yes,
talked
dude.
about the
Yeah.
SSR.
Oh, gosh.
Wait a minute. Okay. Let me stop you
They're
right
so
here.
bad.
Okay, you guys all know how I feel about the SSR. Okay. First of all, you could get it with an LS2
I don't care.
and a manual.
I don't care.
Don't get. I agree. It looked like a prototype and or concept that should have never
It's horrible.
ever
It's
made
horrible.
production. But the fact is, it was basically a Corvette front suspension, and it had independent rear suspension, LS2 manual truck. That's kind of cool, but they look like shit. It looked like shit.
It looked horrible.
Okay. You're right, but it looked better than a Prowler.
Yes.
That was my second.
Yes.
That was gonna be my next one. That was my next one.
Dude,
Oh, yeah.
you literally touched on all 3 cars that I was hard nosed on.
Yes.
Remember?
Yeah.
I said PT Cruiser, SSR, and
Safe brainwave
all
right
of
there.
it. All of it.
Oh, wow.
It's like they were all trying to go for a similar look.
Of course they were.
I
But
still
they're
think
just-
the HHR is very similar.
Oh, the HHR was terrible because
The
it was a
HHR
front wheel
is the,
drive van.
Yeah, but it's
Panel
small.
van.
But it's small.
Yeah.
It's like
So
still
you
a
like
compact.
the
It's like a car.
HHR.
You know, I like the HHR. No, I'm not gonna try. I'm
They
not
made an
gonna share
SS.
trade secrets.
They
Trade
made
secrets. Okay.
There's
they made an SS.
off camera or
Off
after air. I'll share something about
Oh, good.
HHR to you.
Okay.
I'm sure you drove it for Rich or something.
No,
he
no,
bought
no,
one
no,
for
no,
free.
No, it's totally different.
Okay.
Oh,
Has
isn't that
nothing to do-
monster truck sitting in the parking lot?
What's that? What?
HH.
The HHR?
Have you seen it where they're just like on giant wheels?
No, I've never
Oh
seen
my
that before.
gosh.
Don't they like have? Isn't like the back window like not a window? It's like a painted
You
panel.
could get
It's horrible.
panel versions, yeah.
It's horrible.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Panels, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Oh,
so
question.
Where are we
I wanted
at
to
here?
back up a second. I had
We
one topic.
can't.
Why can't we back up? I'm one topic
Nah,
we covered.
You got time.
we do have time.
Okay, I wanted to ask because we talked about all-wheel drive up here, and the cars were between Subaru and Evo, but everyone driving Subaru.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't we see in the Northwest more GTRs, or am I just blind? They're nowhere.
We have a plenty.
Like
I
R,
think
you-
like R35.
Yeah.
GTR, like
Because they're
newer.
$100,000.
They're a totally different class of car, right?
well, most people don't want to spend that much money on a coupe.
No.
You know,
On a Nissan.
on
They're
a Nissan
big.
coupe.
They're big and heavy.
Haven't they started to fall in price? I know, like even if they're heavy, they're
They haven't.
touted to be like the
Yeah,
best
they're
car
still
of all
sub.
time back
They're
in the
still
day.
sub 100. I
You
mean,
can-
you could probably
you can
find
get
them
probably
between
like a-
60 and 80. but
Really?
Yeah,
I
you
thought they
get-
were like 50 grand.
No,
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 really?
You can get like a
Wow.
2012 for 60.
Yeah.
Like first year in the U.S.
Okay.
They held their value very well.
Okay.
As long as they were maintained. I mean, you could probably get a dugout one for.
They're cool. I mean, when you see them on the road,
50.
like I rarely see them out here. But
Yeah.
I do see them out here from time to time. And I mean, as far as like a competitor to say like the ZR1 or your supercars, like it's impressive that Nissan was
Oh, they
able
rip.
to manufacture a car of that caliber and that price range.
And they didn't change much over 10 years.
Yeah.
You're
And
gonna
they
see
ripped.
them. You're gonna see them in specific areas too. L.A.
Oh, definitely.
Miami.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. yeah.
Seattle.
Phoenix.
I've seen more in Seattle than
Texas.
Portland
Yeah.
by a long shot.
Yeah, oh yeah.
What about going back to say the R32s, 3s? Those I've actually been seeing, and those are around the price range of the Evos and the STIs,
Well,
right?
we
I
didn't-
don't understand why
well, they
anyone
didn't
would
sell 'em.
pay that much for them,
Well,
but
we
I
didn't
get
get 'em
it.
here, right?
We can get them, but now people are importing
They're
them.
importing them
course.
because of the
Because it's unobtainium.
25.
the 25-year lot, right? So,
Yeah.
but really, it's just as far as I understand, it's just a redressed 240SX.
It is 100%.
As far as an R32
Yes.
goes.
Really?
I thought they were way heavier.
No.
Well, as far as weight and
all-wheel
everything goes,
drive
I'm not
ones.
sure,
But
but
they're
like
all-wheel drive,
I
though.
know that's
Not all of them are all-wheel
Some people
drive,
use it
yeah.
as a loophole
Yeah.
to like register their car legally as a Nissan 240SX.
They did that in Florida a lot
Yeah.
back in the mid 2000s.
Okay.
So they would import all the parts and
And assemble it.
They would assemble it and use the 240 VIN and just and run it as a 240,
Yeah.
and it was a Skyline.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Interesting. And then when we
And-
get to the R34s, that just not even.
Well, that just
comparable
came
to
up
any of
this
them.
year.
Yeah.
We just got the R34s legally 25 years old this year, and we haven't even had a GTR yet. Mm-hmm. So next year is the GTR for the first year for the R34 GTR.
GTR, yeah.
Yeah.
So any car, I saw an R34 GTR the other day, or at least a replica, like 3 weeks ago. But we didn't, they didn't make the GTR until a year after they made the GTS and GTS-T. So now we're going to start seeing a lot more of them, but we never got them. So
Okay,
you're going to
so-
see them a lot more.
So I guess so when it comes to the GTRs, those aren't in the same kind of even category as the Evos or STIs.
I guess
they
an
are.
R34 would be because it's all
R34 is.
well, any of the all-wheel drive
But it's
variants, right?
It's more of an STI because it's longitudinal, right? The motor's in. It's a four-wheel
yeah.
drive setup.
No, yeah, I never thought about that.
Do you guys-
An Evo is it's a horizontal motor.
Yeah.
So it is more like an STI.
Do you guys think then the
I'd say.
R34 is worth the $100,000, $250,000
No.
for
Hell
those
no.
things?
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
It's a $30,000 car.
Wait, are you talking about R34? Yeah, no. I would pay six figures for one.
Yeah.
It's a
Well-
car that was built in the mid 2000s.
Bro,
what
look,
you're getting out of it, I mean, it doesn't to me make any sense.
the best review of it is on Top Gear.
Okay.
Okay, so Clarkson, and I'm not saying he's like end all, but he reviewed it, and even at the time they were expensive. They were like $60,000 for a GTR like near spec.
Yeah.
And I think he drove a near spec.
Yeah.
And he's like, this is not worth $60,000. It feels like a fucking $30,000 Nissan.
Yeah. Like, because
Fast
you can
and
buy
the Furious.
Ferrari with
There's
that kind
nothing
of money.
That's what it
different.
was.
There's nothing different
If
about it.
Fast and the Furious didn't come out, if that was not whatever the hero car of that movie.
No, I'm talking the
was-
year it came out.
Oh, sure. Okay.
The year the near spec came out.
Yeah.
He was like, this is not a $60,000 car.
Yeah.
This feels just like the regular GTR, and it's $20,000 more. Why? Because the special color or a little more power doesn't make any sense.
Did Fast and Furious really put that much of a tax on it?
100%.
Oh, yeah,
Because
dude.
I figured
No one knew
I-
about those cars before then. I feel like at least.
Oh,
Because
you're right.
I know the Supra is going, but I haven't seen the movies, but I figured that was the car that's more featured than that.
There's three cars really that were featured in that I think got the tax.
Okay.
240.
No, I'm not even thinking that one.
Okay.
Mazda RX-7,
Yeah.
Yes.
Gen 3,
Yeah. FD3.
Vin Diesel's car.
The Charger.
Nope.
Okay.
No, that was the
He's an RX-7.
yeah, the RX-7.
Oh, I know that.
The Supra
Okay.
Yep.
and
R34.
The R34.
Yeah.
So the
I agree with
R34
that.
probably
I
just
would
went up
agree.
because of the unobtainium tax.
Yeah. We didn't get them here. So now and me and Chad are both into four-door Toyotas.
Mm-hmm.
And over the last 5 years, because of COVID especially, we've seen the JZX cars go way up.
Yes.
Right? Like I own a JZX 81, which was I imported it. 25-year rule. It was a 92. It was a four-door. It was like a Cressida, but it came with a 1J non-VVTi turbo.
Mm-hmm.
From the factory, I bought it from a guy here named Bo Gout. I know Chad knows him too. I bought it for dirt cheap, for maybe $4,500. Good deal. Now you can't touch one of those cars for less than $9,000.
Jesus.
And mine was a piece of shit, and I had to do so much work to it. It was terrible. But now that COVID popped off, we're looking at the latest gen, which is the JZX 100, which is the one you can legally import now. Mm-hmm. You can't touch a turbo manual one for less than 20 grand.
Oh, dude, I would say more.
$20,000.
More. Probably more than that.
25.
Yeah, 25 realistically. Yeah. Which, okay,
And they're
going
not,
back.
and mind you, they were 25 new
Right.
in 2000.
Going back to
2002.
Wow.
which car
Or 2000 or whatever it was. Yeah.
next to C5
That's
Corvette as
crazy,
as a
bro.
car I'd like to own. I would like to have a JZX 100.
Me too.
I'd
And I even like the
a JZX
90s.
100. 90s are cool, but I like the way the 100s look better.
And I like the 110s. A lot of people hate me. You know, I know you hate me for this.
No,
but
no, 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 no.
I pop off. I pop off.
I have
I said it.
respect for people that
Look,
that
I like the 110. Well, there was
110s.
only 2 models, and they looked identical. So you have to either like it or you don't.
They're
but the reality is,
hideous, but
Really?
they're cool.
a lot of people don't like them.
The front ends
It
are
looks like
the front ends are kind of wacky.
looks like a Camry. I'll be honest. It looks like a fucking Camry. The rear end is awful, but the front end looks good to me. But anyways, you can't touch a JZX 100 manual turbo.
yeah,
And they were all rear-wheel drive, right? They're all sweet
Yeah.
for 25 grand or less.
Okay.
You can't. So think about that. They cost that much new. And we're 25 years on. And the guys in Japan are selling them over here and making hand over fucking
Yeah.
fist.
yeah.
And they're just literally
They're
just
probably buying them over there for,
nothing.
a couple thousand.
No.
$5,000.
Isn't it the way their laws work out there? Is with registration, they don't want you to drive a car that's exceeded
After 60,000
certain-
kilometers.
right?
Yeah.
So
You have to swap the motor.
If they don't, you have a high tax on it.
Well, if
Yes.
you, and if you can't buy a motor with less than 60,000 k, 60k, or 60
you have to end up
kms,
paying like a high tax for it,
yeah,
right?
and then
Yeah.
if you triple tax, it's some insane.
It's like worth to them buying a new car every however many years, and then those
They
old
just don't
cars.
do it.
If we weren't scooping them all up out here, they'd probably just be abandoned.
We are literally floating the Japanese JDM market like single-handedly.
and what's
Like,
hilarious
they
too.
thought Australia was good and Canada, right? Because Canada was doing them a favor too because they have a 15-year rule. And now we come in with 25, and now all these hot spot cars are
Yeah.
coming in, and we're just floating them.
yeah,
It's hilarious. It's
it
hilarious.
is because to them it's like not a big deal. But out here, you see a JZX 90, JZX 100, R32.
R34.
Yeah, everyone's
A86.
everyone's getting excited out here, and they're just like it's such a common car out there.
It's crazy.
It's funny.
It's hilarious.
Sylvia's.
Yeah.
And then
Oh yeah, Monia.
And then
S15.
let's talk
Did
about
I just-
this. Okay, so Monia's
Did he
been
say-
a guest.
Yeah.
Monia's been a guest. I love Monia.
I hope I didn't
you
spill
love
his
Monia?
secret.
No, I was going to bring it up tonight. It's funny you mentioned that. Monia just picked up an S15.
Woo!
Nice.
2004, I believe.
I
No,
don't
it
know- I
wasn't.
don't know the
No,
year.
it was a 2001.
Yeah.
2001 Nissan Silvia. Gorgeous car. Super clean. We've had Monia on as a guest. He's a great guy. I couldn't believe he bought it.
Those came
not?
with an SR20, right?
Oh
Yeah.
yeah,
Like,
Black
couldn't believe,
top.
like
Notch
why would he
top.
do that, or
not
can't
the
believe
red,
he
okay.
did that because
Oh,
it was
it's
a
the good
great
one.
deal.
I don't know anyone else
No,
other than
he-
Monia that
he
owns an
literally-
S15.
Dude, S15s, they just became legal this year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he literally copped it the first year he could, and it's so clean and it's completely stock.
Okay.
It's a beautiful
Not
car.
to mention the
we
S14.
got to get a look at this thing.
he has
Okay.
the S14 Sylvia also.
He has an S4, and we talked about that on
and
the
that
show.
thing is basically bone stock, and it has super low miles, and that thing is just garage queen. Just sits, doesn't drive it. Very rarely does he drive it.
Dude, it's
Yeah.
oh god, I gotta show you.
I thought he.
Okay.
I was surprised when I saw it too because I thought he sold the FRS like
No, I did too.
without saying anything and then just bought
And then
it.
Blake told me, no, he
Yeah.
just bought it.
Yeah,
I'm like, what?
crazy,
That's sick, dude.
so crazy.
Good for him.
That's awesome.
And I can't wait to take a look at it, man.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I've
What
never
a
seen one in person.
Me neither. I heard they're so small.
Oh really?
Well, they're smaller than an S14.
Oh really?
If you look at the
Wow.
I
specs,
didn't know that.
That's
Interesting.
surprising.
that's why we didn't get them. I think.
Yeah, because you have to have crash zones and stuff like that.
Probably.
Yeah. No, it's crazy to see how much smaller cars are from back in the day. I've actually got a picture of a 60s Cobra that my family owns next to 2 modern Ferraris, and it's like a Mini Cooper.
Yeah.
So it's tiny.
No, it's
And then you
really
think
small.
this, yeah, and it's ridiculous because of how small it is, and then it's
They
got more
are.
power than the either Ferraris.
Rich at Excessive actually has a Cobra,
Very,
and it's in the attic of the shop.
really, oh my gosh! Here, I'm gonna pull up this
That's
picture.
funny.
You gotta see this. Oh, very nice. I'm looking at a video of the Sylvia.
Bro,
That's really cool.
so good.
All right,
Gorgeous.
look at this. This is our vacation house.
Yeah.
Look how small that car is.
Videos.
Yeah, you're not kidding. That thing is
Oh, that's so
tiny.
Yeah.
Nice.
So crazy.
I saw it. I was over there.
Ian, look at this. Look how small it is. Cars
the
from
Cobra?
back in the
Of
day are
course.
so tiny.
All right. Well, John, dude, it's been great talking to you, but we should wrap up a little bit. I want to touch on one subject. When you're talking about project cars and planning a project, what's your priority? Safety, brake, suspension, performance, reliability, comfort, interior. What are we talking? If you were going to build a car today, what
Where do
would
you
that be?
start?
Stickers.
So my
A name.
I'm gonna turn my mic off and go punch him real quick.
my goal, my main goal, is to blow up and act like that. I'm just kidding.
The clout.
My main goal when building a car is practicality, reliability. So and maybe that's because of where I am financially in the stage of life I'm at. So this might be going off on a little
No, go
tangent,
off,
but,
King.
but
Go off.
the very first project car I ever built, in quotes, built, was with Russell, my buddy Russell.
Okay.
Shout out to Russell,
Shout out, Russell.
back in Moore Park, California. This was before, actually, no, I guess I had already turbocharged the Lexus at that point, but that
It's
was
memorable.
that's a street car.
Okay.
You know, it was all the interior was stock, transmission, everything. It was just an
Street
IS300
car.
with a turbo kit on it.
Yeah, street
It
car.
wasn't much of a build per se. Russell is a RX-7 rotary guy. So our goal was to raise enough money working on other people's cars in the garage at my mom's place to fund a drift car that him and I would build together and learn how to drift. And so we ended up buying a RX-7, I think it was like 89 RX-7 FC rolling shell.
So,
And we took that thing down. And this is like, two 19, 20-year-old kids, just messing around, fuck around and find out.
sure.
And so we took that thing down to bare chassis, like subframe out,
Wow.
brakes, suspension, everything out,
Where's the shell?
interior out.
I'm sure mom was
Glass
happy.
out?
My mom, so we have a big RV access at my mom's place. So
Okay.
that was just in the garage. My dad's out of the
She didn't
picture.
see it.
She didn't care.
Did you have glass out?
Glass out.
Oh, wow.
The rear hatch out. It was literally a shell. Went to the grocery store when you could still buy dry ice. Dry iced all the sound deadening out.
Wow.
Like down to nothing but the shell.
Yeah.
And then from there built up. And from that experience, and we never finished the
Sick.
car, which sucks. I ended up moving away. I moved here
You gotta find that car.
before. Oh, it's gone.
You gotta find it.
It is gone.
Like
He sold
destroyed.
it?
Oh, it's parted out. Like Russell kept the nice parts for it because he has a Mazda. He has an RX-7.
At least he kept an FC.
He kept
Yeah.
the nice parts, and then
That's good.
And then parted everything else out.
Okay.
And his car's sick. I mean,
I bet it is.
the motor's been rebuilt.
If you guys went down to a bare chassis, I believe it.
So after doing that, and we went with like the craziest steering knuckles, the craziest, like we went to the extreme of overbuilding a car with no experience of actually driving a race car, just starting off with that. If we were to finish it, we probably wouldn't know what to do with it. It was going to be insane.
Yeah.
So with that said, the experience of starting a project and assuming that, oh, you're building a race car, we got to strip it down and start from nothing,
Yeah.
is so time consuming. Daunting. Time consuming. So much more room for error, user error, that now, as I've matured a little bit and not allowed myself to be so influenced by like
Cloud.
what we see and believing that that is the way, reliability and practical, you know, that's my goal. So like with the blue car,
Sonic.
The goal with that was to put together a badass car that drives really well, but I can drive it to the track, right? I can drive the piss out of it all day, beat the shit out of it, and drive it home the next day, or drive it home from the track and then drive it to work the next day. So I'm trying to be as hands off as possible.
Right. You're not trying to change too much.
No.
Yeah.
Which, if you look at it, there's a lot of things going on with
Of
it.
course. But I'm just saying, you're
But-
still trying to just do enough.
Just
to make
do
it work.
enough. And then maybe slowly add more as you go on, right?
So that'd be your advice.
That would be my advice. You know, I didn't have to 1J swap it, but I have already experienced NA 2J, turbocharging a 2J on my own, building a 2J and then turbocharging it. And to me, it just seemed like all that work and effort, it was great for experience, but as far as just like meeting the goal, 1J, turbo 1J, and this is pre-COVID, so it was like $1,400 to ship it to your door.
Jesus.
Wow.
Whereas like if you want to import that same motor,
5 bands.
easy,
Yeah.
all day. And so I was like, man, if I spend $1,400 on this engine and I can just put it in. So the nice part about the 1J into the IS300, the motor mounts mount right up to it. You can literally just take the stock mounts and everything lines up.
That's cool.
The bell housing for the transmission bolts right up to the back of it. The drive line length is the same.
It's literally
It's as turnkey plug and play of a
Right.
swap into that car, in my opinion.
minus wiring.
Yeah.
wiring, which if you get the right year, so
It is pretty much plug and play.
2001 is the chassis. That's the ECU wise and wiring wise is as close to JZX90, JZX100, Toyota Crown as it gets. So if you buy the 01 chassis, you buy the JZS 171 Toyota Crown VVTi 1J, you can actually take the 2001 IS300 engine harness, extend a couple of plugs, extend a couple of wires, and you can run the factory harness on the stock 1J ECU
That's really cool.
Wow.
with just a little bit. And that was my initial goal. But then I got my job at Excessive, and so they developed a jumper harness. So you can run the 1J harness or engine harness that comes on the motor, plug it into a jumper harness that converts it to the same pinout
Yeah.
Right.
for running
It's like a boom slang.
the Link ECU. And the nice part about the Link ECU is that it replaces the stock computer, and it has CAN bus integration that
that's
still
nice.
communicates.
Runs with all your stock.
So all my stock
Gauges.
gauges work, climate control. I mean,
That's awesome.
if you open the car, you open the door and you look inside, it looks like a stock. I don't have a single gauge, aftermarket gauge in that car. I don't have a wideband. I don't have any of that.
Must be nice, but
All my-
that's not my experience.
So that was
But
the thing
hey,
with
man,
it too,
good for
as
you.
far as being practical and
Yeah.
reliable, right?
That's
and,
cool.
and it's been a true testament to how easy it is if you plan it out right.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, yeah,
That's
driven
amazing,
me all
dude.
over the state of Oregon.
I know it has, and I've watched it. It's been awesome, dude. And you put so many miles on the car, and it's a great car. Well, Chad, dude, it's been great having you on.
Yay.
Thank you
Yeah,
so much
Thanks for
coming
having
on.
me. No, this was fun.
Seriously, dude, you've given us so much insight, and
Absolutely. Yeah.
Wow, you got a lot to
It'd
say.
be cool to come back again. We can go more in depth on like one specific car because
Yeah.
there's just like
I
so
know.
much, and I can just keep going.
You're definitely coming back on, dude.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you have any media shout outs or anything you want out to?
Excessive Manufacturing. They're on Instagram. Google it. I don't
And
know the
it's
website.
X, and it starts
it's
with an
X. XCESSIVE.
Okay.
Yes.
Excessive.mfg on Instagram.
And we'll put it in the show notes too.
And shout out to Russell. He just quit his job. My buddy back in California, he's quit his office job to start his own fabrication and wiring. Hit him up on Instagram if you're in SoCal. Russell Stiltskin
Yes,
is
sir.
the name.
Nice.
But yeah,
Right
it's
on.
great,
Dude.
great being here, guys.
Yeah.
And anything
then-
else, man? Because, dude, you killed it.
Yeah.
We're so happy you came.
I think that's it.
Okay, cool.
Okay. I wanted to say for our social medias.
Yep.
So our social medias, don't
Please.
forget to follow us on Instagram, on Facebook at Untitled Car Project, and as well as send us email at untitledcarproject@gmail.com, and our Twitter Untitled Car Pro, and our Discord at Untitled Car Project.
And also remember that we are going to SEMA. Woo! So I want everybody to reach out to us either in the show comments or anything else. And if you have any booths or companies you want us to talk to and get an interview on, we are going to be doing that the first week of November. So please let us know if you have any input. We really want to hear it, and we would love to help you out. If you can't be there, we will be there.
When this posts, we should be a week away for SEMA.
Yes, exactly.
So, yeah, let us know. Hit us up.
Yeah, let us know.
Do it soon.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, guys. Thank you,
Thank you.
listeners. Thank you, Chad.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Chad.
guys.
All right,
It's good to be here.
Bye.